Warrior Lore. Chapter 4100. There wasn't any loud noise, nor was there any huge fluctuation. A green sprout grew out of the spatial crack where the brush landed. The green sprout instantly filled up all the cracks and slowly grew into a small patch of green moss. This is... Sun Jian was dumbfounded. He seemed to have thought of something and blurted out, "Is this Ma Yang's divine brush?" There was no more movement in the void under the green moss. The demons that were about to come were obviously scared off by Xiao Hua's strange method. In a moment, the hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers and generals in the demon formation began to reorganize their formation. The fragments in the air also slowly disappeared. When the bloody color of the fragments disappeared, the hundreds of thousands of demons also disappeared into the void. Boom! We won! We won! We defeated hundreds of thousands of demons. In an instant, the 100,000 disciples cheered. This was the first time in their lives that they were able to defeat enemies several times stronger than them. How could they not be excited and proud? The enthusiastic atmosphere spread over 1,000 miles. Even Sun Jian, who was always cold, couldn't help but smile at this time. However, just as the cheers died down, in the wind of the celebration, woo-woo, a voice choked with sobs was heard. Everyone looked over and saw a thin female disciple. This female disciple was holding a long sword in her hand. Her body was covered in bloody scars. These scars covered the bright color of her red clothes. Moreover, the red clothes were also torn apart by the demons. But the strange thing was that although there was a large patch of blood on the back of the clothes were still in good condition. There was no damage. Looking at the hairpin in the female disciple's hair and the half of the clothes in her hand, everyone instantly understood. Although the battle was won, the two lovers were separated by life and death. Looking at the clothes on the back of the woman's clothes, when they were fighting against the demons just now, her lover must have protected her back. It was also to protect her life that her lover sacrificed his own life. In an instant, the joy of winning the battle was long gone. Even more disciples began to cry. After all, this battle was not easy, and the number of disciples that died was not small. The woman sobbed for a while before wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes. She swept her gaze across the crowd of disciples and said, "Senior brothers and junior brothers, martial uncles and martial ancestors, I've made a fool of myself. After all, we have achieved a rare victory. My husband, even if he falls into the cycle of reincarnation, he will definitely be as happy as we are." "Not bad," Sun Jian said. "Although we won this battle, this victory was not easy to come by. This victory was built on the corpses of the dead and injured disciples. It was built on our tears and blood. However, we cannot avoid war. There are many injustices and dangers in this world. We can only face them head-on in order to live a better life." "Yes, this disciple understands." The group of Fortune Gate disciples answered in unison. "Line up." Sun Jian waved his hand. "In the future, we will encounter more battles. If we don't want people to die, we will have to train harder. We will let the devil race know that our Fortune Gate's disciples are their nemesis." Sun Jian was indeed a good commander. With just a few words at the crucial moment, he ignited the disciples' passion. Everyone wiped away their tears and shouted, "Victory! Victory!" After everyone lined up, they boarded the lightning boat. The lightning boat rumbled as they set off for the southwest border. Xiao Hua turned his head with confusion in his eyes. He looked at the place where the smell of blood had just dissipated. He thought to himself, "That devil general. Why does this Xiao feel familiar? Could it be that devil general is related to second senior brother? Or his disciple? This is really strange." Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's heart suddenly quivered. A kind of ecstasy rushed to his heart. His granny. Could it be that this Xiao was born in the ruins? This place not only has the Misty School, but also the familiar Yumingxin and the Devil Race. Could it be that the things that this Xiao can't remember all happened in this ruins? But this ruins doesn't seem to have any common people, nor Lu Zhan. The two lightning boats and close to 100,000 Fortune Gates disciples set off for the southwest border. Along the way, not only did they encounter the Devil Race's attacks, but they also encountered the other Dao Gates army. The ruins cultivators were naturally surprised to see strangers, but when they heard that they were reinforcements from the outside world, and each one of them had a high cultivation, they were pleasantly surprised. They reported this matter to the discussion hall and distributed some military supplies to them. Xiao Hua and the green-robed Xiao Hua didn't know how to lead an army and fight a war. They only wanted to take out the disciples in the space to gain experience, but they didn't know that fighting a war and gaining experience were two completely different things. Sun Jian naturally understood this, but before he had the chance, he didn't say anything. Now that he saw the ruins' local army, he naturally asked for everything he needed, including the current situation of the ruins, the positions of the 10 sects in the southwest border, and the layout of the ruins. Of course, the specific layout of the discussion hall couldn't be given to Sun Jian and Xiao Hua, but just from the information they received, the situation of the ruins was absolutely not optimistic. Not to mention that the entire ruins was completely surrounded by the devil race. Not to mention that these devil race had already occupied a small half of the ruins. Not to mention that 30% of the ruins' disciples had died in battle. Just the ruins cultivators' intentions towards the devil race and the origin of the devil race were still unclear. This was enough for Sun Jian to have a pessimistic judgment about the outcome of this war. And what was special was that the secret report from the discussion hall once again mentioned the devil race's ability to travel through the void. This was also an ability they didn't have when they encountered the devil race before. This ability allowed the devil race to appear and disappear unpredictably. The ruins cultivators simply couldn't control the entire battle situation. Sun Jian first looked at the secret report from the discussion hall, then frowned and handed the secret report to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua saw Sun Jian's seriousness and hurriedly took the secret report and looked at it carefully. Very obviously, his focus was different from Sun Jian's. After he finished reading, he didn't find any records of Lu Zhan or other people from the secular world. He couldn't help but be a little disappointed, but he still said in surprise, "What? This ruins isn't a continent, but a star? Or even a star that has already been destroyed by 40%. At this point, Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of the scene he saw through the spatial crack when the transportation passage was torn apart. It seemed that the huge and already incomplete planet at that time was the ruins he was standing on, and that blood fog that spread outside the planet was the devil race that surrounded the ruins. It should be like this. Sun Jian was a little absent-minded and answered, from the current situation, whether it is the continent or the star, the devil race has the advantage. To defeat the devil race is too difficult. Xiao Hua looked at Sun Jian, and then at the two thunderbolts and close to 100,000 disciples. He said with a smile, "Sun Jian, don't worry. Since this Xiao can bring you all out of the heavenly prison, of course this Xiao can also bring you all out of the ruins. Didn't this secret report say it clearly? Outside the ruins is the almost boundless star field. The entire star field is their so-called cultivation world. Other than the ruins, there are many other stars. Although this Xiao doesn't know what other methods can be used to reach other stars apart from the transportation formation, this Xiao feels that if we use the star field to fly to other stars, this Xiao feels that it should be easier than flying in the heavenly prison, right? No. Sun Jian said decisively, this sun is not worried about my life. With Taoist Xiao and the Kunlun mirror here, this sun is not afraid of these things. This sun is worried about the cultivators of the ruins. We can leave as we wish, but these cultivators will be killed by the devil race and refined into blood spirits. Thinking about this sun has a headache." Sigh, Xiao Hua sighed and said with emotion, "This Xiao finally knows why the immortal emperor conferred you the title of immortal Lord Cheng. Although your cultivation and strength might not be worthy of the title of immortal lord, your loyalty and benevolence are enough to make you worthy of the title. Sun Jian, you can do it without worry. If 100,000 disciples are not enough, this Xiao will give you another 100,000. If magic tools and magic treasures are not enough, this Xiao will give you more." "Oh?" Sun Jian raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "How many methods does Taoist Xiao have that you haven't used? If your loyalty to this Xiao surpasses that of the immortal emperor, this Xiao will naturally let you know." Sun Jian smiled slightly and did not answer. Instead, he looked into the distance and pondered with a frown. Xiao Hua's words were naturally not a joke. There were originally 2 million people in his space, and most of these people were cultivators. Many of them were even not inferior to the Fortune Gate's disciples. In particular, since entering the ruins, Xiao Hua had kept a lot of wandering souls into the inside of the space. There were even more blood spirits in the 8 devil flags. Roughly speaking, there were probably tens of millions of them. The quality of these wandering souls was extremely high, far surpassing the souls that Xiao Hua had collected in the hidden immortal continent. They rested on the underworld fruit tree for a while, and then directly reincarnated into the Shenhua continent. These tens of millions of souls not only allowed the underworld fruit tree to form a continent after reincarnating, they also increased the vitality of the space. The entire space's area increased sharply once again, reaching a distance of 80 million li. Not only was there land in the space, there was also an ocean. The various landforms were no different from the Dawn Rain continent and the hidden immortal continent. These reincarnated children's aptitude was outstanding, and they could understand the Fortune Gate's cultivation techniques with just a hint. Although it was still a short time, Xiao Hua believed that as long as the war between the ruins and the devil race continued, the ruins cultivators would gradually die out. However, the number of disciples in his space would definitely increase. Not to mention 100,000, even 1,000,000 disciples was possible. The night was silent, and even the rumbling of the thunder boat seemed a little noisy. Sun Jian looked into the distance and said, "Daoist Xiao, with the speed of the thunderbolt, we should reach the White Cloud Monastery in 10 days. On our way here, we encountered 12 groups of ruins cultivators and 7 groups of devil race. Our Fortune Gate's disciples' combat strength is far greater than before, but we also lost a lot of disciples. Now, we probably have less than 90,000. The 12 groups of cultivators also passed the news that the Devil Emperor was preparing to annihilate the 10 southwestern groups to the conference hall, but obviously, the conference hall did not believe this news. Or maybe they were restrained by the devil race and were unable to send troops to the southwestern border. If this news is credible, then the ones who will fight the Devil Emperor are the 10 southwestern groups and our Fortune Gate's disciples. -13. Chapter 4101. At this point, this Xiao can only hope that this news is false. Xiao Hua answered indifferently as he looked into the distance. Sun Jian shook his head and looked meaningfully at Xiao Hua, saying, "Daoist Xiao is deceiving himself. If you didn't feel it, why would you insist on coming?" Xiao Hua shrugged and answered, "I just want to see if there are any advantages here. Daoist Xiao is probably the only person in this world who can take advantage of the devil race." Sun Jian did not expose Xiao Hua. Instead, he smiled and said, "Wan Wuxin said that there was a devil emperor coming with 500,000 devil soldiers. No wonder the ruins meeting hall didn't believe it. Just look at the scattered devil soldiers we met along the way. A devil monarch brought 500,000 devil soldiers. If a devil emperor wants to destroy a sect, without 2 to 3 million devil soldiers, it would be impossible, right? In fact, the most important thing is..." Xiao Hua took a deep breath. The southwest border is remote. Although the 10 sects are not big, the people there are brave and valiant. The 10 sects are not convinced by the Misty School, Fragrance Religion, and Shandao sect. Not to mention that there is no place for them in the meeting hall. They are even more disobedient to the meeting hall. The annihilation of the 10 sects may not have any effect on the ruins. Moreover, the 10 sects are spread over millions of li in the southwest border. If a devil emperor wants to annihilate the 10 sects, it won't be easy. Therefore, the ruins meeting hall doesn't care, doesn't believe, and doesn't care. This is the ruins' internal affairs. It has nothing to do with us. Sun Jian didn't like this kind of deceit and said, "We just do what we should do." "Good." Xiao Hua nodded. This kind of Sun Jian is the Sun Jian that this Xiao is willing to befriend. "Many thanks, Master Xiao." Sun Jian nodded slightly, then emphasized, "If Master Xiao doesn't rebel against the Misty School, Master Xiao will always be this one's Master Xiao. Your grandmother. Why would this Xiao rebel against the Misty School?" Xiao Hua waved his hand. "This Xiao has never done such a boring thing. As long as the Misty School doesn't find trouble with this Xiao will definitely ignore the Immortal Emperor." AI. Sun Jian looked at the Fortune Gate disciples on the lightning boat. Master Xiao is making things difficult for this one. It's all up to you. Xiao Hua smiles and sits cross-legged on the thunderboat. This Xiao is going to cultivate. You can slowly think about it. There is still a long time left. It won't be too late for you to make a decision after we return to the hidden immortal continent. As for what you think of doing, without mentioning Xiao Hua's comprehension of the laws of time, the thunderboat rumbled forward as fast as lightning. It passed through the clouds and flew over the mountain forest. 10 days later, a faint mist appeared in the sky, and the mountain ridge became increasingly steep. The speed of the thunder ship had already slowed down. In front of the thunder ship, there were patrolling disciples who went out one after another to scout for news and movements. Although Xiao Hua's other avatars could see further than them, they only cultivated by themselves and did not give any warning. However, after traveling for another half a day, just as it was about to be late at night, Xiao Hua suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, Sun Jian, issue a military order, call back the patrolling disciples. The White Cloud Monastery is right in front of us. The demons have already surrounded it and are attacking. Let's hurry and reinforce them. After saying that, Xiao Hua raised his hand and waved. A mirror that was several dozen feet in size appeared in front of Sun Jian, and a huge mountain peak appeared in the mirror. This mountain peak looked like a dragon head that was protruding from the ground. The dragon head was surrounded by white clouds, and now, the white clouds were sealed by the blood formation. Streams of blood flowed out from the dragon head and landed on the dragon head before pouring down. The devilish chi around the blood formation devoured the white clouds crazily. Tens of thousands of demons brandished their devilish weapons and fought against the humans. As for the humans, they were wearing Taoist robes and Taoist crowns. They were the attire of orthodox Taoism cultivators. Everyone. Sun Jian glanced at the mirror and raised his hand to pick up a small flag. He issued an order, stay alert, devil-slaying army, form the Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation and prepare to face the enemy. Woo-woo. The two thunder ships emitted a strange sound at the same time. This sound seemed to be thunder, but the rhythm of the thunder was different. Even Xiao Hua was confused when he heard it. The Fortune Gate's disciples on the thunder ship hurriedly flew out from their original positions and landed on different parts of the thunder ship. From the looks of it, they were forming two Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formations. This plentiful sun devil-devouring immortal formation was naturally recorded in the jade eyes that Xiao Hua had given to Sun Jian. Initially, Sun Jian did not care about it. However, Sun Jian later realized that the capital star formation that Xiao Hua had set up in the Black Wind Ridge was already so powerful. How could the formation that Xiao Hua had given him be ordinary? Sure enough, there were a few offensive formations and a defensive formation that Sun Jian had never heard of before. When he saw how to set up the formation, Sun Jian was shocked. He might not know how to set up a formation, but he knew how to train an army. After the battle with the devil race, Sun Jian started to teach the tens of thousands of disciples how to set up the formation. Unfortunately, this Pleiades devil-devouring immortal formation was too complicated. It was impossible to master it in a short period of time. Until today, the 90,000 disciples were barely able to set up the embryonic form of the formation. After the formation was set up, the speed of the thunder ship gradually slowed down and steadily advanced. The Fortune Gate's disciples in the space were personally trained by green-robed Xiao Hua. Most of them knew the art of lightning. Everyone circulated their magic power and communicated with the lightning pool on the thunder ship. The several thousand feet long thunder ship was like a rooster formed by lightning. It raised its proud comb and flew towards the devil formation. In order to prepare for the battle with the devil emperor, Xiao Hua had already recalled his clones. He flew out from the thunder ship and slowly flew behind the disciples. He released his divine sense and paid attention to the situation of the devil formation. Since the Fortune Gate's disciples had discovered the devil formation, the devil race naturally discovered the thunder ship. Before the two thunder ships could get close, devil chi rushed out from the blood water like a waterfall. More than a dozen devils riding on magic beasts charged out, brandishing devil artifacts in their hands. These devils were different from the ones the Fortune Gate's disciples had encountered previously. They did not have wings on their backs. nor did they have horns on their foreheads. Each and every one of them was tall and sturdy. Dense devil, chi condensed into devil formations around these devils. The outer layer of these devil formations was suffused with blood-red light, and fist-sized devil runes were engraved on these devil formations. Looking at them, one's mind would be lost. These devils were not in human form. Some of them had 3 heads, and the 3 heads were either in the shape of beasts or birds. Some of them were even shapeless. Some of them had 6 arms, and each arm was different in length. They held different devil artifacts in their hands. Some of them were even shapeless, resembling a lump of pus and blood. However, there were tentacles that looked like tree branches sticking out from the pus and blood, and the tentacles were holding white bones. The magic beasts the devils rode on were also very strange. Some of them were just bones, while some of them were made of flesh and blood. Large chunks of pus and blood dripped down from their bodies. There were even some magic beasts that were made of blood clouds. Ghost heads screamed crazily within the blood clouds, and specks of dark green light could be seen clearly in the night sky. Blood flowed out endlessly like a river. Tens of thousands of devils had gathered in the air above them, and they had yet to get into formation. Sun Jian raised his hand and waved his 3-pointed double-edged blade, giving the order, kill. Following Sun Jian's command, the 2 lightning bolts suddenly sped up. The 2 plentiful sun devil devouring immortal arrays emitted a devil-slaying aura. Tens of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples were enshrouded in lightning. Following the lightning bolts, they were like roosters that tore through the sky as they charged towards the devil-slaying army. Rumble, Zalala. Rumbling sounds, lightning strikes, collisions, screams, wails, moans, blood flowing, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. All kinds of sorrowful cries and pain could be heard when the humans and devils clashed. The Pleiades devil devouring immortal arrays pierced deep into the devil formation, tearing apart the blood and devil chi. The lightning within the immortal arrays also struck down the burly devils one after another. The rooster formation was slowly being compressed. As the lightning bolts crashed into the devil formation, the Pleiades devil devouring immortal arrays were compressed to the extreme. Swoosh. Following that, the devil formation also poured out like mercury. Those devils that weren't killed by the lightning bolts and blood rushed into the immortal arrays. The suppressed might of the Pleiades devil devouring immortal arrays suddenly erupted, and all the devils within several miles were instantly killed by the lightning bolts. Seeing thousands of devils being turned into dust by the lightning bolts, the Fortune Gate's disciples were shocked. They roared and swung their magic treasures. Circulating their true essence, they maintained the same formation as they smashed towards the devils. Jiji. Just as Xiao Hua and Sun Jian were watching the battle, a series of hoarse sounds like boulders colliding came from the devil formation. Following that, 4 balls of bloody pus flew out from the devil formation. They rapidly expanded in midair, and when the pus and blood fell, they turned into 4 devil monarchs that were thousands of feet tall. These 4 devil monarchs were different from the ones Xiao Hua had seen before. They all had strange appearances. Their heads were squarish, and they didn't have any facial features. They only had one big eye and a bloody mouth that was tens of feet wide. Everywhere else was covered in blood. Their figures didn't look like humans either. They had 3 tentacle-like arms and a dozen thick, pillar-like legs. Above the blood clouds, the devil monarchs' bodies were like gourds. The surface of their bodies was jet black, and there were skeletons engraved on their bodies. When the devil monarchs appeared, the devil artifacts immediately rushed out from the blood formation. They clustered around the devil monarchs and soared into the sky. Although Xiao Hua couldn't see any expression in the devil monarch's eyes, he felt an indescribable shock in his heart. It's a little strange. Xiao Hua turned to look at Sun Jian and transmitted his voice. Didn't you say there was a devil emperor? How come there are still 4 devil monarchs? Could it be that Wan Wuxin's information was wrong? Sun Jian shook his head slightly and replied, Wan Wuxin's information might not be wrong. Don't forget, the Devil Emperor wants to exterminate the 10 southwest sections. These 10 sects aren't together, so if the Devil Emperor attacks at the same time, he might not be able to do anything. What do you mean by being unable to do anything? Xiao Hua smiled coldly and reminded, I'm afraid these 4 devil monarchs are not simple. Maybe one of them is the devil emperor's doppelganger. Not to mention one, even if all 4 of them are. So what? Sun Jian said proudly, can we still let them escape? Good. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, General Sun is responsible for 1 devil monarch. Leave the other 3 to us. -13. Chapter 4102. With that, Xiao Hua shook the Kunlun mirror. The green-robed Xiao Hua and the soul cultivator Xiao Hua flew out of the space and landed in front of the 2 demon monarchs. Roar! The 4 demon monarchs uttered unpleasant murmurs. They waved their demonic weapons and rushed toward Xiao Hua and the others. True qi surged around Sun Jian's body. The 5-colored clouds not only appeared under his feet, but also enveloped his body. In addition, Sun Jian's armor was overflowing with brilliance. He really was a majestic, perfected Lord Qingyuan. Sun Jian's strength might not be comparable to Xiao Hua's, but his experience on the battlefield was better than Xiao Hua's. In particular, he had followed the Immortal Palace's army everywhere and fought with the demon race more than once or twice. He didn't have the slightest fear in the face of the demon monarchs. That 3-pointed, double-edged blade was a spiritual treasure that was about to advance to the Xiantian level. That weapon not only split the void, but also split the demon qi in half. Swish! There was a soft sound, as if a hand had torn his clothes. The moment the demon monarch's strange demonic tool came into contact with the 3-pointed, double-edged blade, it was immediately cut open. The demon monarch was slightly startled. He opened his mouth wide, and a stream of filthy blood gushed out. This filthy blood was very powerful. As soon as it rushed out, it immediately produced dozens of thumb-sized whirlpools. In the middle of the whirlpools was a small black that looked like an eye. The blood waves that rolled up from the whirlpools corroded the entire space. Wherever the black dot passed, it produced a terrifying roar, and a heavy sound wave rushed towards Sun Jian's forehead. What was particularly special was that within 100 li of the demon lord, all the space was suffused with a bloody light as thin as a broad bean. Within these bean-sized bloody lights, one could faintly see the demon kingdom. Perhaps there were demon flames that soared to the heavens, or demons that covered the earth. Tens of thousands of killing qi seeped out from these bloody lights. Humph! Seeing the bloody river like waves and the bloody light like swords, Sun Jian sneered. He threw his 3-pointed, double-edged blade into the sky. The blade turned into a 3-headed silver dragon and pounced on the demon monarch. He also patted his own head. Puff! The 5-colored true qi turned into a cherry blossom and rushed into the air. A mighty qi bloomed from the cherry blossom, completely enveloping the demon monarch and Sun Jian within 100 miles. With the rotation of the cherry blossom, the mighty qi condensed into thin, needle-like pillars of mighty qi, which pierced into the bloody light with incomparable sharpness. Bang, 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 bang. Sounds like beans being fried appeared within 100 miles. Void cracks appeared out of nowhere. When the 5-colored cherry blossom arrived in front of the bloody river, it immediately went against the flow. A rumbling sound that shook the space was heard. A fluctuation that could overturn a giant mountain emerged from the cherry blossom and the bloody river. In the light and darkness, the bloody river flowed in reverse. Sun Jian's 5-colored true qi not only destroyed the demon monarch's bloody river, but it also didn't stop there. It crashed into the demon monarch's body, causing the demon vein to let out an ear-piercing howl. Cracks appeared on the surface of the demon monarch's jet-black body, and the cracks spread extremely quickly. Several of the demon monarch's legs collapsed like glass. Not only that, the 3-pointed, double-edged blade also pounced over. The demon monarch hastily fought back, and a few of his demon weapons were shattered by the 3-pointed, double-edged blade. Even one of his arms was chopped off. The demon monarch didn't expect Sun Jian's battle prowess to be so strong. They had only met face to face, but Sun Jian was already able to injure him. He couldn't help but quickly retreat in fear. That big eye suddenly spun, and streams of demon vein rushed out from it, distorting the space and falling towards Sun Jian's head. Kill! Sun Jian roared angrily. The void-shattering eye between his brows slowly opened, and a thin, silver-white pillar of light instantly broke through the sky, piercing straight through the demon vein. Wherever the pillar of light passed, the demon vein exploded. With a loud boom, the pillar of light even entered the demon monarch's eye. Pff. With a muffled sound, the pillar of light sank into the demon monarch's head, passing through it like a chopstick sticking into tofu. Eowo! The demon monarch let out a blood-curdling scream, and his figure quickly retreated again. Pff. With another crisp sound, the three-pointed, double-edged blade stabbed into the demon monarch's back. The jet-black demon vein gave birth to the shape of a huge shield, and the demon chi in the shield was dense. 10,000 blood shadows appeared in an attempt to block it, but they couldn't stop the three-pointed, double-edged blade. Caw-caw. With a crisp sound, the demon monarch's demon core was shattered, and a dense demon chi rushed out from the demon monarch's body. 10,000 blood shadows roared and wanted to fly back to the demon array to escape. Woo! Sun Jian was already prepared. The cherry-like five-colored true chi had already descended, and the entire space trembled as it was about to kill these blood shadows. Haha! Leave these to this Xiao. A loud laugh came from behind Sun Jian. It was unknown when Xiao Hua had mysteriously appeared. Under the mental barrier, the netherworld origin force rushed out, and all the demons were sucked into the blood river. Reverend's method is good. Sun Jian smiled and withdrew his true chi. He raised his head and looked in the other two directions. At this time, Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua took out a subbrush and a green dot fell on the demon monarch's body. It was as if green sprouts had sprouted from the demon monarch's body. Instantly, thousands of seeds sprouted from the demon monarch's body. The demon monarch let out a heart-wrenching howl, and his demon palms madly clawed at his body in an attempt to pull out the green sprouts. Unfortunately, as soon as his demon palms touched the sprouts, a green light appeared on his palms. In just a moment, the demon monarch's entire body was covered in green light. Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua didn't have to use any other divine ability. The subbrush's life force had already exterminated the demon monarch. Divine tool. Mal Yang's divine brush. It really is a divine tool. Sun Jian sighed. In his heart, he knew that although his Confucian cultivation technique was the bane of the demon race, it wouldn't have been so easy to kill the demon monarch without his three-pointed, double-edged blade. Furthermore, Xiao Hua's subbrush seemed to be even more powerful than his three-pointed, double-edged blade. It was even more powerful than the legendary divine brush. Seeing Soul Cultivator Xiao Hua succeed, the green-robed Xiao Hua was a little anxious. He had always considered himself as the Fortune Gate's ancestor, but today, he actually fell behind Xiao Hua. This really made him lose face. The green-robed Xiao Hua rubbed his hands together, and two thunderbolts appeared in his hands like halberds. Ka-cha-cha! They hacked down towards the devil monarch's head, and he even opened his mouth. Woo! The seal of turning the sea rushed out, and the coiling dragon roared as it grabbed the seal and pounced towards the devil monarch's heart. Wherever the seal passed, waves of bronze ripples rippled out like water, breaking through the devil monarch's domain. The thunderbolts illuminated the devil monarch's ugly face, and it seemed as if they were about to split the devil monarch in half. It was also at this time that the demon monarch's single eye suddenly flickered with a trace of fire. An invisible whirlwind suddenly appeared around the demon monarch, and then, a frigid coldness spread out from the demon monarch. This frigid coldness was so powerful that the moment it appeared, the space around the demon monarch froze. One after another, pale white devils appeared from the void. The green-robed Xiao Hua's lightning bolts actually froze in midair, unable to strike down. Even the powerful seal of overturning sea was tumbling in midair, as if it had encountered an invisible barrier that it couldn't break through. Not good. Xiao Hua's expression changed greatly. His figure flickered as he tried to teleport over, but it was clear that the ice had already spread out for several hundred li. His figure blurred, but after a few li, he reappeared again. His eyes were filled with shock. However, in a short moment, lightning bolts surged around Xiao Hua's body, and an intense fluctuation appeared. Xiao Hua's figure turned into a rainbow as he forcibly charged into the ice domain. Woo! Above Xiao Hua's head, a beam of light shot out. The Kunlun mirror that had always been incomparably sharp also became slow at this time. Although the beam of light shattered a lot of ice, it was still very far away from the green-robed Xiao Hua. At this moment, the devil patterns around the demon monarch's body suddenly emitted a pale white brilliance. Within the brilliance, a large amount of devil chi and blood-red light rushed into the huge devil body. The huge devil body emitted a ka-ka sound, and the devil body rapidly changed and expanded. A humanoid devil emperor was about to appear. Woo! Before the devil emperor was completely formed, the several tentacles of the demon monarch had already transformed into a strange arm. This arm was entangled together like a vine, and every vine was a white bone. With a wave of this arm, it had already crossed the sky and pierced towards the green-robed Xiao Hua's head. A bone-chilling feeling emerged from the bottom of Xiao Hua's heart. Although he saw the lightning bolts surging around the green-robed Xiao Hua, and the space within 100 li was also clustered with lightning bolts, and the green-robed Xiao Hua was preparing to merge with the lightning bolts to fight against this white bone. Xiao Hua's intuition told him that his doppelganger would definitely suffer a great loss under this Devil Emperor's doppelganger. Seeing the soul cultivator Xiao Hua's subbrush landing on the ice domain, Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and the Kunlun mirror in his hand trembled again. A thick devil flame was born and rushed into the domain. Immediately, the devil flame condensed into the shape of a human. It was precisely the devil spirit Xiao Hua. Devil spirit Xiao Hua didn't reveal his appearance. His left hand suddenly waved, and a black light that swallowed all the brilliance flashed in midair. Devil Blade Murder transcended space and Devil Emperor's domain and appeared above Devil Emperor's head. Kill. It's actually kill. Even the Devil Emperor was startled by the appearance of the Devil Blade and almost jumped out of his body. The Devil Emperor's ice domain was admittedly cold, but under the killing intent of the Devil Blade, it threw away its armor. When the entire space collapsed, the Devil Blade cleaved the Devil Emperor's incomplete body into two halves. Even the Devil Blade swallowed all the devil bodies in its path, and the Devil Emperor's doppelganger fell into the Devil Chi. Grandma, that was close. After the Devil Emperor was destroyed, the green-robed Xiao Hua hastily put away his magic treasure and teleported to Xiao Hua's side. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and released his divine sense to look at the place where the Devil Emperor appeared. He nodded and said, "Yes, this Devil Emperor should be 9th grade elemental power. It seems like he can break through to the realm of Devil Emperor at any time. Fellow Taoist really is not his opponent now." The soul cultivator Xiao Hua also teleported to Xiao Hua's side. He frowned and said, "The Devil Realm has always had few Devil Emperors. Why did we suddenly encounter a Devil Emperor who is about to become a Devil Emperor? Fellow Taoist, don't forget, this place is not the hidden immortal continent." Xiao Hua reminded, "Perhaps this Devil Realm and that Devil Realm might be different." -13. Chapter 4103. As the saying goes, the devil rises 10. The path of cultivation is still far away. Green-robed Xiao Hua looked very ashamed, and sighed as he followed Xiao Hua back into Xiao Hua's fleshly body. On the other hand, Sun Jian stood extremely far away as he looked at Xiao Hua, who was holding a demonic blade, with a thoughtful expression in his eyes. Xiao Hua looked at Sun Jian and did not explain anything. The Kunlun mirror shook and absorbed Xiao Hua into its bloodline. Xiao Hua and Sun Jian didn't say a word. They just stood on the lightning boat. One used the light of clear sight to check the attacks from the two immortal arrays, while the other used his divine sense to observe the changes in the demonic arrays. Amidst the deafening battle cries, the time it took to finish a cup of tea had passed. The Fortune Gate's disciples' fighting spirit was gradually worn down, and the battle was now in a stalemate. Moreover, as the bloody light from the devil array poured in, more and more devil cultivators flew out and joined the battle. The devil flames were beginning to suppress the Dao sect's momentum. Not bad. Seeing this, Xiao Hua nodded and said, This demon race is clearly different from the demon race we encountered before. These devil cultivators are tough and powerful. In a one-on-one battle, other than the 4th grade and above cultivators, the rest of the Fortune Gate disciples are no match for them. But now, after several battles, the Fortune Gate disciples can cooperate with each other and rely on their formations to fight evenly with the same number of devil cultivators. It's really not easy. It's too early to make a conclusion. Sun Jian was not optimistic and said, as the saying goes, the first drum beats the spirit, the second is weak, and the third is exhausted. Currently, our army is in a state of decline. If we can't survive this, we will be defeated. Hee, this Xiao doesn't know. Xiao Hua laughed. But, if the Fortune Gate's devil-slaying army and devil-exterminating army can't give birth to a military spirit under true sovereign Qingyuan's guidance, then which army in the world can resist the devil cultivators? Hee. Sun Jian laughed arrogantly and did not reply. Sure enough, in less than half a cup of tea's time, the Fortune Gate's disciples' tenacity was revealed. The experience and lessons they had learned from sacrificing more than 10,000 Fortune Gate's disciples' lives in the previous battles had paid off. Although there were casualties among the Fortune Gate's disciples, they still fought tenaciously against the endless waves of devil army. Not only did they block the devil army in front of them, they even sacrificed their lives for their fellow disciples. This unity of will formed a divine ability that was 100 times more powerful than magic power, blocking the devil army's attacks. Moreover, after enduring the devil clan's attack, the Fortune Gate disciples were like cultivators who had opened 100 meridians. Their movements had become more agile, and their attacks were like sharp blades piercing into the devil formation. The lightning bolts flickering light tore the devil formation apart, and the several thousand zhang long lightning bolt charged into the blood mist. An unstoppable military spirit was gradually revealed. Kill ah! The Fortune Gate disciples cheered when they saw that the devil formation had been broken. However, the disciples' battle formation did not change. Instead, it was as steady as before, with layers upon layers of magic treasures. In the face of such battle-savvy humans, the devil army could only retreat, leaving behind more than 10,000 broken limbs as they fought and retreated. After the blood formation, there was another blood formation with layers upon layers of blood shadows. It was exactly what Xiao Hua had seen with his magic treasure. At this time, the number of Dao Gate's cultivators fighting inside the blood formation was much less than before. Moreover, the surviving cultivators all had sorrowful expressions on their faces. They were at a disadvantage and could be killed by the devil army at any time. However, these cultivators were pleasantly surprised when they saw the lightning bolt charging in. However, when they saw the Fortune Gate's disciples' attire, they were shocked. However, since the Fortune Gate's disciples were humans, and they had broken through the devil formation, these cultivators naturally knew the purpose of the Fortune Gate's disciples' arrival. Some disciples hurriedly broke away from their opponents and regrouped with the Fortune Gate's disciples, while others hurriedly sent messages to the White Cloud Monastery. We are Fortune Gate's disciples under Taoist Xiao, in front of the lightning boat. A disciple in charge of sending messages shouted through voice transmission. Don't be anxious, get into formation and resist. We are here to rescue the White Cloud Monastery. You and I will attack from the inside and outside and defeat the devil army. Many thanks for the Fortune Gate's assistance. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was very happy. The devil army has besieged my White Cloud Monastery for more than 10 days. Our transmission array has been cut off by the devil army, so we can't send messages. The danger here cannot be transmitted to the meeting hall. We have no other Taoist to send messages. My White Cloud Monastery's protective grand formation is on the verge of collapse. No need to say more. The Fortune Gate's disciple acted as if he had been on the battlefield for a long time. He said through voice transmission, send a message to the White Cloud Monastery. Activate the protective grand formation at full power. We will attack from the inside and outside and fight the enemy together. Okay. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was even happier. He said through voice transmission, I will send the message now, but I wonder, how many disciples did you send? I can also send a message to the sect. 90,000. The Fortune Gate's disciple answered without hesitation. 90,000? The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was shocked. He looked at the blood clouds behind the lightning bolt in disbelief and blurted out, "How can there only be 90,000? There are close to 700,000 devil army besieging the White Cloud Monastery, and the devil army that attacked the Fortune Gate's disciples just now. Quickly send the message." The Fortune Gate's disciple's face was expressionless. He ignored the White Cloud Monastery's disciple's shock and ordered, "Okay." The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was slightly stunned and hurriedly turned around. It wasn't that the Fortune Gate's disciple was experienced on the battlefield, nor was it that the White Cloud Monastery's disciples were ignorant of war. It was because the Fortune Gate's disciples had come with the lingering prestige of victory. The White Cloud Monastery's disciples were scared out of their wits by the devil army. More importantly, the Fortune Gate's disciples had Xiaohua, a godlike existence in their hearts. They were not afraid of the devil army. My Fortune Gate's Grand Ascension stage martial ancestor and 10 of his Grand Ascension stage friends are in the formation. The Fortune Gate's disciple shouted again after the White Cloud Monastery's disciple turned around, as if he felt that his words were too cold. Grand Ascension stage martial ancestor? The White Cloud Monastery's disciple was stunned when he heard this. He had never heard of a Grand Ascension stage martial ancestor. However, the word Grand Ascension stage sounded awe-inspiring. Moreover, the Fortune Gate's disciple's tone was arrogant. The White Cloud Monastery's disciple had already replaced the Grand Ascension stage with the Tao Transformation stage. He immediately sent a message, "Tao Transformation Senior, Taoist Zhao's 90,000 Fortune Gate's disciples are here as reinforcements. There are also 10 Tao Transformation stage experts." The 10 Tao Transformation stage experts were naturally more important than the 90,000 disciples. As soon as the news reached the White Cloud Monastery, a rumbling sound came from the monastery. The white clouds that were originally suppressed by the blood formation emitted a dazzling brilliance. Then, the white clouds condensed into blocks that were several li in size. These blocks rapidly took shape. They were birds, beasts, mountains, rivers, and people. The white clouds released an indescribable pressure as they rushed towards the blood formation. Woo-woo! The blood formation was suddenly shattered by the white clouds, and hundreds of Taoist cultivators appeared from each of the white clouds. As soon as these cultivators rushed out, they immediately arranged themselves in a strange formation and activated their magic power to fight against the devils. Looking at the devil army, they were originally surging within the blood clouds. Now, they also rushed out with a roar. They were divided into two groups that faced the White Cloud Monastery's disciples and the Fortune Gate's disciples. For a moment, the battle cries that had stopped for a while sounded again. Where are the Tao Transformation Stage seniors of the Fortune Gate? Juniors by Shan, by Shui, and by Ming are here to welcome the seniors. Between the white clouds, a rainbow flew out from the depths. 3 young Tao sex cultivators appeared in front of the devil army with horsetail whisks in their hands. When they waved the horsetail whisks, the space within a few li was sealed. Rays of light flashed like clouds, and the devil generals within a few li were all killed and turned into powder. Taoist Master Xiao. Sun Jian looked at Xiaohua and said tentatively, "We should go out and meet the White Cloud Monastery's master." Xiaohua naturally understood Sun Jian's thoughts. He took out the Kunlun mirror. As the brilliance shook, the green-robed Xiaohua, the dragon bloodline Xiaohua, the bone-tempering Xiaohua, and the phoenix body Xiaohua flew out and landed on the thunder ship. The 4 clones did not conceal their strength and release their auras. Not only did they force the devil army to retreat, but the thunder ship's brilliance also shone brightly. Seeing this, Sun Jian nodded slightly. His figure flew out first, holding the 3-pointed double-edged sword in his hand. Xiaohua and the others flew behind him. The 6 experts flew out from the thunder ship and killed all the devil soldiers within 100 li. When they flew closer, Sun Jian cupped his hands and said, "This one is true sovereign Qing'an, Sun Jian. Greetings to the White Cloud Monastery's fellow immortals." Fellow immortals? The White Cloud Monastery's master Bai Shan was slightly stunned, but he did not ask too much. He returned the greeting and said, This one is the White Cloud Monastery's master by Shan. Greetings to fellow immortal Sunday. May I know which one of you is the Fortune Gate's Taoist master Xiao? While the White Cloud Monastery's master was speaking, his gaze had already landed on Xiao Hua, who was surrounded by his clones. This is my Fortune Gate's master Xiao Hua, Taoist master Xiao. Sun Jian moved to the side and said respectfully. Bai Shan hurriedly bowed and said, Junior Bai Shan greets Taoist master Xiao. The two cultivators beside him also hurriedly bowed and said, Juniors Bai Shui and Bai Ming greet Taoist master Xiao. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeves and lifted the three of them up. He smiled and said, There's no need to be overly courteous. It won't be too late to greet you after we kill the devil army. Taoist master. Bai Shan looked at the four clones behind Xiao Hua and said with a smile, These four seniors. They are this old man's good friends. Xiao Hua smiled and said, They specialize in magic arts and are not good with words. They also don't like to make friends. You don't need to know their names. Yes, this junior understands. Bai Shan hurriedly bowed to the four clones and looked at Xiao Hua. However, he was a little hesitant. He turned to look at his two junior brothers and said, Taoist Master Xiao, the devil army is too powerful. My White Cloud Monastery had already planned to destroy everything. Since Senior has come to help, my White Cloud Monastery has a chance to survive. Although Senior's 90,000 disciples are brave, we have to face hundreds of thousands of devil soldiers. Even if the White Cloud Monastery and Fortune Gate work together, we may not be their match. In this junior's opinion, if we can use the Fortune Gate's flying ship to break the devil army's blood formation, my White Cloud Monastery will be able to escape from the devil army's formation. Oh. When Xiao Hua heard this, he didn't hesitate and pointed at Sun Jian and said, This old man is only in charge of killing. All military matters are decided by true sovereign Qing Yuan. Yes. Bai Shan hurriedly looked at Sun Jian and asked, What does fellow immortal Sun think? -13. Chapter 4104. Very good. Sun Jian nods. The devil race is powerful. Although the devil emperor's doppelganger has been killed by Zhenren Shao with a thunderous strike, his true body has yet to be revealed. Although we can't judge that the devil emperor is on the southwest border, our two sects should join forces to rush out of the devil formation and then go to rescue the Soft Sound Palace. What? Bai Shan was shocked. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief. The devil emperor's avatar was killed by Taoist Xiao? Yes, not only was the devil emperor's avatar killed, but the four devil monarchs surrounding the White Cloud Monastery were also killed. Now, it's much easier for us to break out. Xiao Hua said, But, Temple Master Bai, if we break out, what will happen to your White Cloud Monastery's foundation? Yes, Senior knows. Bai Shan hurriedly explained, The devil race mainly devours the flesh and blood of cultivators. The White Cloud Monastery's foundation is just rubble in their eyes. It won't be too late for us to return after they retreat. Good. Xiao Hua nodded. We'll do as Temple Master Bai says. We'll rush out of the devil array and hide from the devil emperor. Subsequently, Sun Jian and Bai Shan discussed for a while. Bai Shan left Bai Ming to assist Sun Jian, while he brought Bai Shui and charged into the devil array behind the White Cloud Monastery. When Bai Shan's figure charged through the blood-red light, Xiao Hua clearly saw that the radiance around Bai Shan's body had dimmed. The Tao Gate of the Ruins is similar to the hidden immortal mainland's Confucian cultivation realm. They both cultivate the primordial spirit, but they don't seem to restrain the devil race like the Confucian cultivation realm. Xiao Hua muttered inwardly, the Tao Gate of the Ruins cultivator's cultivation technique seems to be not worth the loss. The lightning bolt obeyed Sun Jian's order and stopped charging into the devil array. It stopped in midair. Lightning overflowed from the lightning bolt. Not only did it kill the devil race that came to snatch the lightning bolt, but it also formed a lightning immortal array with the Fortune Gate disciples nearby, protecting them. Bai Ming, who was standing beside Sun Jian, looked at the lightning bolt for a moment. Envy appeared in his eyes as he asked in a low voice, General Sun, what material is this flying boat made of? Why does it have such lightning power? What kind of great formation is this lightning formation? Why is it so powerful? This flying boat is called the lightning boat. and it was personally refined by our Fortune Gates chief, Taoist Xiao. Sun Jian proudly said, "This grand formation is called the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation, and it was also taught by Taoist Xiao." The Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation? Bai Ming sucked in a breath of cold air and said in surprise, "General Sun, are you talking about the Kunlun sect protection array?" Sun Tian smiled and said, "Whether or not it is the Kunlun sect protecting formation is not something that I can know. Fellow Immortal Bai, you still have to ask my Taoist Xiao." Taoist Master. Bai Ming turned around and bowed without hesitation. Junior was reckless. "Although I don't know if this Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation is Kunlun sect's great sect protecting formation, this Junior still wishes to earnestly ask Senior, if possible, could you bestow this formation to us? If we have this immortal formation, our Baiyun sect, no, the hundreds of sects in the ruins will no longer fear the invasion of the devil race." Back then, 10 devil emperors led hundreds of millions of devil soldiers to besiege Mount Kunlun. But Mount Kunlun did not send any troops to face the enemy. Just this Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation alone killed 2 devil emperors and 5 million devil soldiers, forcing the devil emperors to flee in panic. Xiaohua was a bit hesitant. To be honest, after 20,000 years of bitter cultivation, although he did not focus on the innate divine restriction in his Naiwan palace, after the battle with Sun Hao and the others, the innate divine restriction had gradually become clearer, and Xiaohua had also comprehended a lot in these years. He had already comprehended the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation completely, so it was not a big deal to give it to Baiyun sect. However, this was an innate divine restriction after all. How could Xiaohua just give it away like that? Baiyun sect might not treasure something that could be obtained without paying a price. However, how could the current Xiaohua be compared to Zhang Xiaohua, who did not know how to speak in the past? He hesitated slightly, then took out a jade slip and said with a smile, "Indeed. Although the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation is precious, compared to Baiyun sect's foundation and the lives of the Dao sect's cultivators in the ruins, it is nothing. I am willing to give this formation to Baiyun sect, but this old man hopes that Baiyun sect can only use it as a sect protection formation and cannot teach it to disciples or others." Of course. Bai Ming was overjoyed and said tactfully, "My Baiyun sect is not the kind of sect that does not know how to repay kindness. Senior, please hold on to this jade slip first. When Senior Brother sect master comes, this junior will ask Senior Brother to exchange the precious treasures of Baiyun sect." "There is no need for precious treasures." Xiaohua smiled as he passed the jade slip to Bai Ming and said, "Your Baiyun sect has many disciples, and they also need those treasures. My Fortune Gates disciples will not compete with Baiyun sect's Taoist friends for these resources. This old man likes to study Tao techniques the most. If you have the heart, you can let this old man take a look at Baiyun sect's cultivation techniques." Taoist. Bai Ming held the jade slip that was still warm, and tears almost flowed out of his eyes. This Dao sect's senior in front of him was so powerful that he couldn't see through his depth at all. How could this senior lack any cultivation techniques? He said this to give Baiyun sect an excuse to accept the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation with face. Otherwise, how could Xiaohua put the Pleiades Devil-Devouring Immortal Formation's jade slip into his hands before he even got anything to exchange? Looking at Bai Ming's expression, Xiaohua knew that Bai Ming had understood his meaning. Bai Ming was indeed worthy of being called Bai Ming. He smiled and waved his hand, saying, "There is no need for this. Let us escape first." "No, Taoist." Bai Ming resolutely raised his hand and took out a simple and unadorned jade slip from his bosom. He respectfully handed it to Xiaohua and said, "This is the cultivation technique that this junior practices. I'm afraid it can't be compared to my Baiyun sect's Dao techniques. However, please take this jade slip first. As for the rest, when my Senior Brother sect master comes, this junior will risk his life to ask Senior Brother sect master to let him take a look at the Dao techniques." Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What did he want Bai Ming's cultivation technique for? What he wanted was the Baiyun sect's Dao techniques. He waved his hand and said, "Bai Ming, this old man isn't the kind of person to take advantage of a burning house. You should keep this cultivation technique for now. No? Bai Ming was even more resolute. This is Junior's determination. If Senior doesn't accept it, Junior won't accept Senior's formation. All right. Xiaohua was somewhat helpless. He reached out to take it and casually placed it in his bosom. At this moment, Bai Ming raised his eyebrows as if he was listening attentively. After a few breaths, he also put away his jade eyes and hurriedly called out, "General Sun, Senior Brother Sect Master has sent a message. All the disciples of my Baiyun sect are coming out in full force. General, please give the order to charge into the demonic formation." All right. At the head of the shop, Sun Jian looked around with confidence. He raised his hand and took out a small flag. He waved it and said, "Disciples, charge into the demonic formation." As the small flag was waved, rhythmic lightning appeared on the thunder ship again. It began to rumble as it was activated. The 90,000 disciples understood the military order and similarly activated their magic power, charging into the demonic formation. The lightning radiant fruit was the nemesis of the demonic formation. Amidst the rumbling sounds, the thunder ship tore through the blood waterfall just like before and went deeper into the demonic formation. Through the gap in the demonic formation, Xiaohua and the others could see that on top of a majestic mountain, there were hundreds and thousands of palaces. There were wisps of white clouds above the palaces, but they had already been shattered. Above the white clouds, a dozen flying ships that were not inferior to the thunder ship slowly flew out. However, these flying ships were in the shape of white clouds and didn't seem to be fast. What was special was that when the flying ships reached the demonic formation, the demonic clan's blood-red light had already torn apart the flying ship's white clouds. "Daoist Xiao," Bai Ming hurriedly said, "Previously, my Baiyun sect's disciples also wanted to use the flying ships to destroy the demonic formation. Unfortunately, my Baiyun sect's flying ships are not as fierce as the Fortune Gate's lightning ships. In the end, they failed on the verge of success. At this time, I beseech seniors to help my Baiyun sect's disciples escape." In fact, Xiaohua was also anxious. Previously, he had killed that unknown Devil Emperor's clone without saying a word. Who knew when that Devil Emperor would arrive here? With just the Baiyun sect's disciples and Fortune Gate's disciples, it would take a lot of time to break this demonic formation. Xiaohua didn't want to stay here for too long. All right. Xiaohua nodded and raised his hand. "Fellow Taoists, it's time for us to act. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can go home and eat." Ha ha ha. Dragon Vein Xiaohua laughed loudly and said, "As you wish." With that said, the green-robed Xiaohua, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone-Tempering Xiaohua, and Phoenix Body Xiaohua all rushed into the demonic array formation and stood several hundred miles behind the lightning ship. Xiaohua followed them and landed below the lightning ship, forming a pentagonal formation. Dragon Vein Xiaohua chanted in the dragon language, and his hands formed a seal. A clear golden dragon mark appeared about 100 li away from him. A dragon's roar and tiger's roar came from the void. Then, the dragon mark soared into the sky with Dragon Vein Xiaohua's seal and turned into a huge dragon. It circled in the sky and roared as it charged towards the demonic formation that was torn apart by the lightning ship. Wherever the dragon passed, the demonic chi was swept away. The demonic soldiers and demonic generals were also smashed into pieces. However, the demonic array was too powerful. The dragon couldn't penetrate it completely. A huge whirlpool appeared near the thunder ship. Bone-Tempering Xiaohua was even more mysterious. He placed his hands in front of his chest, and it seemed as though his hands were flashing with 3 different colors. It seemed as though he was punching and kicking. "Break!" Bone-Tempering Xiaohua shouted. As though there was an opponent in front of him, he clenched his hands into fists and punched forward. Woo! The 3 waves condensed into a barrier that was 100 li in size. It carried a tricolored halo and rushed into the demonic formation. Wherever the waves passed, most of the devil chi was destroyed. Even more devils were crushed into powder. Similarly, a huge vortex appeared on the other side of the lightning ship. Phoenix Physique Xiaohua raised his head and let out a long cry. The 3 suns and the faint outline of the moon world suddenly lit up and released the power of the stars and moon that was hard to see with the naked eye. The majestic power of the stars and moon shrouded Phoenix Physique Xiaohua. Woo! Phoenix Physique Xiaohua waved his hands, just like bone-tempering Xiaohua. Two winged phantoms that were several hundred li in size appeared out of thin air. As the wings danced, the power of the stars and moon like a flood rushed towards the demonic formation with a desolate aura. The devil chi was turned into dust by the power of the stars and moon. The demonic soldiers and generals were killed. Even the bloodlight in the blood formation was wiped clean. A huge crack was torn open by Phoenix Physique Xiaohua. -13. Chapter 4105. Seeing Phoenix body Xiaohua's means so powerful, green-robed Xiaohua was somewhat unwilling to be outdone. He had just been sneak attacked by the Demon Emperor's clone and almost fell into the enemy's hands. He had lost all his face. Now, he rubbed his hands and waved his Taoist robe. Hundreds of lightning bolts condensed into a huge sphere, and the heaven and earth origin energy within 1,000 miles crazily poured in. Rumble. The lightning bolts were like crazy beasts, roaring, biting, and pouncing on the demonic array. Green-robed Xiaohua desperately wanted to break the demonic array. Xiaohua, who was below the thunder ship, smiled slightly and similarly let out a dragon roar. He raised his hand and threw the Kunlun mirror into the air. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. The flickering light of the dragon pattern emitted from his hands and fell on the Kunlun mirror. Along with the activation of a secret technique similar to the dragon language, the Kunlun mirror emitted a 5-colored brilliance. As soon as the brilliance appeared, it was as dazzling as the sun. Within the brilliance, a thumb-sized crystal ball rotated at an extremely fast speed. Go! Xiaohua straightened his arms and pushed them out. The true yuan around his body slowly fell into the Kunlun mirror. Along with Xiaohua's light shout, the Kunlun mirror issued a rumbling sound. The space within 100 miles of Xiaohua was shaking. Then, a light beam several times stronger than before rushed out of the Kunlun mirror and disappeared into the void. The nearby void seemed to be boiling, and countless indescribable fluctuations flew out. Rumble. In a few breaths, the 5-colored light beam appeared near the thunder ship and crashed into the demonic array. It really connected the vortexes and cracks created by green-robed Xiaohua, dragon vein Xiaohua, bone-tempering Xiaohua, and phoenix body Xiaohua. The entire world seemed to be shaking. The demonic array was hit by Xiaohua's 4 clones, and a gap of several hundred miles was created. The demonic energy, bloodlight, and demons within 100 miles were all turned into ashes. There was no trace of them. Only the flickering lightning of the thunder ship and the misty clouds of the dozen or so white cloud ships could be seen. Go quickly. Seeing Xiaohua's great power, Sun Jian's face did not have the slightest trace of surprise. He raised his hand, and the small flag that commanded the 3 armies was taken out again. Then, the rhythm of the thunder ship changed again. The thunder ship didn't have any intention of changing its direction and immediately retreated to the back. The dozen or so white cloud ships also followed behind the thunder ship and rushed toward the outer layer of the demonic array. Although the innumerable devils who were repelled by Xiaohua were unable to stop Xiaohua and the others, they were unable to stop the fearless devils. As soon as the thunder ship retreated, the devils rushed over like a tide, intending to block the thunder ship and the white cloud ship. However, by the time the demon race arrived, the thunderboat had already reached the outer layer of the demon array. The outer layer of the demonic array was incomparable to the inner layer of the demonic array that surrounded the white cloud sect. The thunderboat had already broken through it once. Now that the thunderboat was here, the demonic array was like a piece of paper. It only lasted for a moment before the thunderboat broke through. Kill. Seeing the thunderboat break through the demonic array, the White Cloud sect's disciples didn't even wait for the Fortune Gate's disciples to cheer. The White Cloud sect's disciples who had been suppressing their emotions for more than 10 days were released in an instant. Their passion for survival reached its peak. All the White Cloud sect's disciples circulated their magic power and attacked the demonic array in a frenzy. Under the powerful attacks of the White Cloud Monastery disciples, not only were thousands and tens of thousands of devils killed, even the demonic formation was completely destroyed. Although the dozen or so white cloud boats were moving slowly, they still managed to charge out of the bloody light. The dozen or so flying ships immediately displayed their speed when they rushed out of the demonic array. Lightning flashed, and white clouds drifted. In a few breaths' time, they had already crossed several dozen li. The devils were like flies chasing after a swarm of bees, but they were still lagging behind. Haha. On the white cloud ship, the white cloud sect master Bai Shan laughed heartily. He cupped his fists at Xiao Hua and said, "Many thanks, Senior Xiao." At this time, Xiao Hua released his divine sense to alert the surroundings. When he saw Bai Shan thanking him, he smiled faintly. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He abruptly turned his head and looked into the distance. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission, "The Devil Emperor is attacking, quickly leave." As soon as Xiao Hua's voice rang out, a black flame shot out from the distance, covering the entire world. This black flame was like the fury of a devil emperor, burning fiercely. However, the strange thing was that under this black flame, within a range of 10,000 miles, layers of icy cold waves rushed over like toppling mountains and overturning seas. The white cloud ship that couldn't escape in time was about to be frozen. Xiao Hua sneered, waved his hands, and hundreds of crystal lights disappeared into the void. Rumble. Within a range of several thousand miles behind the white cloud ship and the thunder ship, layers of thunderbolts appeared. These thunderbolts blocked the oncoming cold waves. Amidst the booming sounds, the frozen domain was crushed. Amidst the violent airflow, the thunder ship and the white cloud ship were lifted high up into the air, drifting far away. Hee hee. So it's a Dao Gates expert. This emperor is really surprised. A sneer that sounded like an owl's came from the cold. Not to mention the group of Fortune Gates disciples, even Xiao Hua and his avatars felt their blood boil, and their hearts beat rapidly. Gradually, from the source of the voice, a black speck like a devil shadow grew to several thousand zhang in size in the blink of an eye. It flew over. Black flames danced around the devil shadow, and a momentum that could annihilate all living things rushed over. Devil Emperor. Xiao Hua looked at the devil shadow rushing over, and a familiar devil sense fell on his body. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked around. Magic power surged around his body, and the world's origin energy whistled into his body. In a flash of brilliance, Xiao Hua's figure grew rapidly, and he also turned into a 10,000 zhang tall avatar. He held the wishful staff in his hand and blocked the attack in midair. Xiao Hua stood in midair, and several of his avatars also stood nearby. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua revealed the body of a 5-clawed true dragon, and his imposing manner was majestic. Bone-tempering Xiao Hua snorted coldly and revealed his desolate figure, clenching his fists and looking coldly. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua spread his wings, and his phoenix body bloomed with 5-colored brilliance, and his pair of phoenix eyes emitted a cold light. The green-robed Xiao Hua was even more arrogant, and a 10,000 zhang tall thunderbolt appeared, as if he was indomitable, standing straight in the air. "Sure enough, you have some skill." The Devil Emperor revealed his figure, and it was similar to the avatar that was killed by Xiao Hua before. It looked a little strange, but where his eyes were previously like bloody holes, an indescribable brilliance appeared, just like the eyes of a human. He stared at Xiao Hua and his several avatars, and a somewhat hoarse voice came out from those big mouth-like holes. Xiao Hua and his 4 avatars revealed their imposing manner, and 5 of them pressured the Devil Emperor. However, the Devil Emperor's body was surrounded by black flames like a ribbon, indifferently fluttering, as if he was not affected by this imposing manner. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked at the Devil Emperor, his mind turning rapidly. Previously, the Devil Emperor did not appear, and only one of his avatars blocked the attacks of the green-robed Xiao Hua and the soul cultivator Xiao Hua. If he did not rely on the Devil Blade, and took advantage of the fact that the Devil Emperor's avatar was not completely revealed, he was afraid that he would have suffered a great loss. However, now that the Devil Emperor's main body had come personally, and before they even fought, he had already shown his strength. How should he deal with it? This Devil Emperor seems to be just a Devil Emperor, and has not set foot into the devil venerable realm. But his strength is far from an ordinary devil emperor. He should be an existence that surpasses the 9th grade of elemental energy. Xiao Hua pondered. This realm is higher than the hidden immortal continent, and the strength of the devil race is also correspondingly higher. Although this Xiao already has the strength of a 9th grade of elemental energy, it seems that I am not a match for him. I can only use my wits. Jiji. Xiao Hua had just made up his mind when the devil emperor sneered again. The black flames around his body soared into the sky, and when they fell again, they actually divided into 5 and rushed towards Xiao Hua and the others. The 5 black flames were like 5 huge black pythons, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws fiercely, giving birth to a suffocating, imposing manner, completely enveloping Xiao Hua's golden body. Traces of indescribable coldness pierced into Xiao Hua's body like steel needles, and Xiao Hua felt that his entire golden body was imprisoned, making it difficult for him to mobilize his magic power. Open! Xiao Hua and his doppelganger roared in unison. Xiao Hua's divine sense was like a hammer, falling like a star. The wishful staff was swung up, smashing towards the black pythons. The green-robed Xiao Hua waved his hands, and a thunderbolt like a flying sword slashed out, crashing into the mouth of the black flames. The dragon-vein Xiao Hua, the bone-tempering Xiao Hua, and the phoenix-body Xiao Hua also urged their divine abilities to meet the black flames. Woo! In the roar, the 5 black flames were blocked, like a tide hitting a reef. A burst of flames soared into the sky, as if covering the sky and covering the sun, surrounding Xiao Hua and his doppelganger. And when these flames calmed down a little, Xiao Hua and his doppelganger could no longer see any brilliance within a few thousand miles, and the scenery had also disappeared. What Xiao Hua could see with his naked eyes was only pitch-black darkness and the devil flame that seemed to have some light in the darkness. Blood-dripping paradise? Xiao Hua's divine sense swept out, and when his divine sense touched the devil flame that seemed to be everywhere in the air, he immediately had a feeling of being swallowed. Xiao Hua sneered in his heart. I am afraid this is the power of the Devil Emperor's domain. Even if it is not the blood-dripping paradise, it should be close. Looks like this Devil Emperor is rather scheming, wanting to use the Devil Flames attack as an opportunity to trap us. But how could he know that this Xiao did not intend to escape? What this Xiao wants to do is to kill this bastard. Ha ha ha. While Xiao Hua was pondering, the Devil Emperor laughed loudly. This emperor took advantage of the chaos to sneak attack the 10 sects of the southwest. This emperor originally wanted to collect more souls, but I really did not expect that such a secret information would be leaked. It attracted so many experts of the Dao sect. Looks like, this time, this emperor is destined to return with a full harvest. At first, the Devil Emperor's voice was still somewhat hoarse, and his words were mixed with the devil language. Xiao Hua could not hear clearly, but after a few sentences, the Devil Emperor actually used the human language, and it was much more fluent. Who are you? This emperor has been trapped in the ruins for so long. How come I have never seen such a strange cultivator like you? After saying a few sentences, the Devil Emperor actually asked about Xiao Hua's origins. Xiao Hua sneered, looked around, and replied, Senior, do you think that this old man has become a fish on the chopping block after being trapped in your devil blood-dripping paradise? You are only a devil emperor, not a devil venerable. -13. Chapter 4106. Ha ha ha. The demon emperor laughed out loud, and the demonic blood in the entire paradise shook. Within a few thousand miles, countless demons poked their heads out from the demonic blood and laughed eerily. Little kid, your words are really funny. This emperor has never heard of a human cultivator who dares to speak so calmly in front of this emperor. Don't think that you have the strength to fight this emperor just because you've reached the Tao actualization realm. In the eyes of my devil race, you humans are nothing more than food. Nothing more. At this point, the Devil King's laughter came to an abrupt stop. A huge eye strangely spat out from the Devil King's eye. The eye was blood red, and there were tens of thousands of smaller eyes gathered together. The eye stared at Xiao Hua for a moment. Xiao Hua felt a bone-piercing coldness all over his body, as if the eye could see through him. The Devil King's somewhat puzzled voice rang out. Even Imo Lianxi, Lu Wuxia, and Yun Shay can't recognize this devil blood grotto. You, how do you know? No wonder you could kill this emperor's avatar. Which sector you from? How can this emperor's name be spoken so easily? The Devil King sneered. Besides, a despicable human like you doesn't deserve to hear this emperor's name. Ha ha ha. The tiny devils within the countless black flames let out strange laughter. The entire devil blood grotto was filled with fluctuations that constantly attacked Xiao Hua's mind and soul. However, whether it was Xiao Hua or his four avatars, the area within 100 kilometers of them was covered by their own domains. The fluctuations disappeared without a trace after entering their domains. They were unable to harm them at all. However, this aura was so monstrous that it firmly suppressed Xiao Hua's heart. Humans are food in your eyes, but you are a pile of blood in this old man's eyes. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. Fighting with you is really dirtying my hands. Woo-woo. When the Devil Emperor heard this, layers of black light appeared in its huge eyes. It let out a whimper and pierced towards Xiao Hua. Wherever the black light passed, the entire space was torn apart. Countless devils rushed in, and an endless amount of bloody light overflowed. The Demon Emperor is nothing more than this. Xiao Hua was already waiting to make his move. When he saw the black light surging towards him, he waved his hand and the Kunlun mirror appeared in midair. As he cast a spell, his surrounding mana surged into the Devil Emperor's cave. The Devil Emperor's Devil Blood Cave was more than 100 times stronger than Ji Ping's Blood Drop Cave. Buzz! The Kunlun mirror emitted a blinding light as a light pillar rushed out, transforming into a 100-mile-wide light tide that rushed towards the black light. However, the might of this light pillar was clearly not as powerful as before. Moreover, although the omnipresent black flames were destroyed by the light pillar was also exhausted and became increasingly dim. Boom! When the three-colored light pillar rushed into the black light, it did not cause too much of an impact. The black light was immediately destroyed by the Kunlun mirror. Moreover, the three-colored light pillar went against the flow and rushed towards the Devil Emperor's bloody eye. The Devil Emperor was clearly stunned. He hurriedly waved his devil palm, and thousands of ripples emerged from the Devil Blood Grotto heaven and landed in front of the light pillar. Rumble! Countless devils rushed out, and the blood light and devil chi burst out from the light pillar. In just a moment, the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror was completely destroyed. At this moment, the light pillar was still some distance away from the Devil Emperor. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart. He knew that although he was a Mahayana realm cultivator and had the strength to pass the tribulation, he was still far from the Devil Emperor in the ruins. It was not only because of his strength, but also because of the difference in the environment. Even if he had cultivated for 20,000 years, he was no different from a child in the eyes of the Devil Emperor. Not to mention that during those 20,000 years, there were many times when he could not cultivate at all. As Xiao Hua sighed, the pressure on the Kunlun mirror suddenly increased. Moreover, an indescribable suction force appeared from the nearby grotto heavens. Xiao Hua's heart tightened, and he thought to himself, in this Devil Blood Cave, this Zhao's magic treasure is probably not useful. I don't want to be tricked by this Devil Emperor. This Xiao's Kunlun mirror will be taken away by him. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua hurriedly kept the Kunlun mirror. Then, lightning surged around his body and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Looking at the bone-honing Xiao Hua and the other doppelgangers, they also used their divine abilities and abandoned their magic treasures to pounce towards the Devil Emperor. Oh! The Devil Emperor was stunned, and then he waved his demonic palms. Countless vortexes appeared in the space of 500 kilometers around him, and blood-red light and devil chi surged once more. Swoosh! Xiao Hua's golden body flew out from the devil chi and let out a long breath. It seemed as if it had dived out from deep water. Then, without stopping, he waved his arms and legs and used the Fist of the North Star to attack the Devil Emperor. The wind from his fists was like a hurricane, and the wind from his legs was like a star, tearing the Devil Blood Cave apart. Good! When the Devil Emperor saw this, he couldn't help but shout, "You humans always say that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. This emperor has never seen a human fight a devil with his fists." As he spoke, the Devil Emperor waved his demonic palms as well, and his figure swayed as he fought with Xiao Hua. One was a human, the other was a devil. One had a 10,000 zhang long golden body, the other had a 10,000 zhang long demonic body. One could flatten mountains with his fists, while the other's demonic palms could shatter stars. In just a moment, the space within 500 kilometers was completely filled with fist winds. The devil chi and the golden light collided, causing the devil blood cave to shake violently. Rumbling sounds were constantly heard. Although there were no magic treasures, the collision between the golden body and the demonic body was not inferior to that of magic treasures. Woo! Bone-honing Xiao Hua rushed forward and waved his fists as well. Like a meteor, he rushed into the battle and cooperated with Xiao Hua to surround the Devil Emperor. You! The Devil Emperor was already shocked, and seeing bone-honing Xiao Hua join in, he cried out in shock, "How do you know? My Devil Realm's great heavenly cycle star fist?" No. In just a moment, the Devil Emperor cried out again, "This is not the great heavenly cycle star fist. Humph." Xiao Hua snorted and said, "A frog in a well. This is called the Fist of the North Star. Today, this old man will use the Big Dipper God Fist to challenge you, the Devil Emperor of the Devil race." While speaking, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua also besieged. Although the two doppelgangers did not use their fists, one had a dragon body and the other a demonic body, so they were both incomparably tough. Taking advantage of the gaps, they either used their dragon claws or phoenix claws to attack, besieging the Devil Emperor. Devil chi surged around the Devil Emperor, and several arms grew out of his demonic body. He said proudly, "Even if you know my Devil Realm's great heavenly cycle star fist, so what? Let this emperor teach you what close combat is." Boom! While speaking, the Devil Emperor's figure flashed and strangely dodged Xiao Hua's fist. Then, a demonic palm stretched out from his back and pressed on Xiao Hua's arm. The moment the devil chi came into contact with Xiao Hua's golden body, it immediately exploded. Tens of zhang above Xiao Hua's golden body exploded into splashes of light, and strands of devil chi rushed into Xiao Hua's body like sharp swords, madly seeping into Xiao Hua's blood vessels. Xiao Hua, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua, and the other doppelgangers relied on their tempered bodies to fight the Devil Emperor, but the green-robed Xiao Hua was unable to do so. At the same time Xiao Hua was hit by the Devil Emperor, the lightning around the green-robed Xiao Hua's body was also shattered by a punch. When the demonic palm pressed on the green-robed Xiao Hua's body, the green-robed Xiao Hua's body began to boil and tremble, and his entire body began to collapse. The green-robed Xiao Hua was seriously injured, and Xiao Hua was even more shocked. He had cultivated the Heavenly Law's embodiment technique, but he was in such a sorry state. As he rapidly retreated, the blood drop paradise in his blood vessels was hurriedly activated, and the devil spirit Xiao Hua was barely able to swallow the devil chi. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Devil Emperor once again struck the bone-honing Xiao Hua with his demonic palm. Haha! The bone-honing Xiao Hua's body flashed with brilliance, and as he laughed, he advanced instead of retreating. A large foot suddenly stretched out from the light, and with a boom, it kicked the Devil Emperor's body. The Devil Emperor howled in pain, and like Xiao Hua, his figure rapidly retreated. Previously, he was looking at Xiao Hua with complacency, but now, a strange expression appeared in his eyes. Good opportunity. Seeing the Devil Emperor retreat, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua and Phoenix Body Xiao Hua suddenly attacked from the left and right. Xiao Hua secretly cheered in his heart, and taking advantage of this moment, his figure flashed again, instantly disappearing from where he was. When he reappeared, he had already passed through the flashing devil flames around the Devil Emperor and was approaching the Devil Emperor's side. So, Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a golden light shot towards the Devil Emperor like lightning, covering a distance of several li in an instant. Kacha! The golden tongue Jiao Shears swung its dragon tail in midair and struck the Devil Emperor's body. The golden light descended from the demonic emperor's forehead and instantly streaked across the space between his eyebrows. Hiss! Under the golden light, the demonic marks on the demonic emperor's body began to rotate violently. Although a pitch-black mark appeared on the demonic emperor's body and broke the demonic marks, as the demonic marks spun rapidly, the demonic marks quickly recovered. The pitch-black mark also disappeared in an instant. Xiaohua could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Damn it! Isn't the tempering of this devil body too perverse? No wonder the Tao transformation cultivators of the hundreds of sects in the ruins could not defeat the Devil Emperor. Xiaohua knew that his magic treasure could not break through the Devil Emperor's defense, and even his fists and feet might not be able to hurt the Devil Emperor. However, he never expected that the sharpest magic treasure among his magic treasures, the Tongue Jiao Shears, would also fail. How can I escape? At this time, Xiaohua was no longer thinking about how to kill the Devil Emperor. Instead, he was thinking about how to escape. Perhaps at this time, only the celestial white bones can be of some use. However, once the celestial white bones are used, whether it succeeds or not, I will be at the mercy of others. How can I dare to use it now? Ha ha ha. A puny human dares to have designs on my supreme devil body. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Xiaohua's magic treasure had no effect, the Devil Emperor laughed complacently. As he waved his arms, very strange devil weapons were taken out. One was like a long spear, and the other was like a demon-subduing pestle. As he waved them, a heavy aura assaulted Xiaohua's face, as though it was heavier than Xiaohua's wishful staff. -13. Chapter 4107. While Xiaohua was pondering, the Tongjiao scissors cut through the air, cutting hundreds of black flames in half with extreme sharpness. Finally, it fell into Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua grabbed half of the Tongjiao scissors with his big hand. At the same time, the wishful steel staff also appeared in his hand. With a roar, he attacked the Devil Emperor. The wishful steel staff looked a little slender at this time, and it was somewhat uncoordinated in Xiaohua's hand. Crackle! The wishful steel staff clashed with the spear, and Xiaohua fell into a disadvantage again. The Demon Emperor not only had exquisite moves, but his weapon was also heavier than Xiaohua's. Xiaohua's wishful steel staff couldn't get close at all. Even with Xiaohua's dragon body, the Demon Emperor's spear pierced his tail, and the two hard dragon scales cracked. However, compared to Xiaohua's shock, the Demon Emperor was even more surprised. He looked at Xiaohua's wishful steel staff in disbelief and said, "Huh? God punishment staff technique? You are the descendant of the demon race of my demon realm? How do you know both the great heavenly cycle star fist and the God punishment staff technique?" At this time, how could Xiaohua care about his surprise? Seeing that the wishful steel staff was useless, he began to look around, and his mind raced, thinking about what other means of escape he had. Unfortunately, the Demon Blood Wonderland seemed to be more powerful than the Blood Drop Wonderland. There was no gap in the domain. Xiaohua's illusion breaker eye opened a slit, and his eyes were full of blood red, and he couldn't see anything else. Maybe this is the only way. Xiaohua sighed slightly, and his figure moved, and his body surged with demon chi no less than the Demon Emperor's. Buzz. Demon Spirit Xiaohua appeared in the Demon Blood Wonderland. Similarly, Demon Spirit Xiaohua's body flashed with blood red light, and the Blood Drop Wonderland also protected Demon Spirit Xiaohua. Demon Spirit Xiaohua appeared, and without a pause, he waved his left hand, and the demon blade emitted 1,000 layers of demon chi mixed with countless blood red light. The demon flame and demon head of the Demon Blood Wonderland were also sucked in by the demon blade. Seeing the demon blade cut the space in half and fall on the Demon Emperor's head, Xiaohua could see the panic and fear in the Demon Emperor's eyes with the naked eye. The Demon Emperor hurriedly raised his weapon to defend himself. Clang! 2 loud clangs rang out. Although the demon saber failed to shatter the 2 demon artifacts, the unparalleled demonic force sent the Demon Emperor flying hundreds of kilometers away. Demon Spirit Xiaohua's attack was successful. Without hesitation, he once again turned into a strand of demon chi and chased down The demon blade once again slashed out. As for Xiaohua, he hurriedly kept the heavily injured green-robed Xiaohua into his space. He also kept the dragon vein Xiaohua, bone-tempering Xiaohua, and phoenix body Xiaohua into his space and prepared to flee. Haha! Just then, the seemingly defeated demon emperor burst out laughing. Human, oh, human, you can't help but use slaughter in the end. Do you really think that your majesty doesn't know that those are your doppelgangers? Human, you're so childish. Xiaohua was taken aback. He immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be that those doppelgangers weren't completely devoured by the demon saber? Woo! Without waiting for Xiaohua to react, ghost-like wails and wolf-like howls resounded in the surroundings of the demon blood wonderland. The place where the demon flame was before turned into small pitch-black holes. A powerful suction force was generated from those small holes. When this suction force landed on Xiaohua, it wasn't that powerful. However, when it landed on demon spirit Xiaohua's body, waves of demon qi came out of nowhere. Waves of pain, as if he was being cut into pieces, came from demon spirit Xiaohua. Demon spirit Xiaohua let out a heart-wrenching howl. Although demon spirit Xiaohua was separated from Xiaohua's body and the pain couldn't be completely transmitted to Xiaohua's body, the apocalyptic terror of demon spirit Xiaohua was like a piece of black cloth covering Xiaohua's heart. Woo! Demon spirit Xiaohua couldn't care less about killing demon emperor. His entire body turned into a pool of blood and wriggled violently in the air. In just a short moment, that pool of blood had shrunk by more than half. If it weren't for the faint flickering of golden threads in the pool of blood, this demon spirit Xiaohua would have been devoured by demon emperor long ago. Ha ha ha! You've only cultivated my demon realm's blooddrop wonderland. How can such a low-level cultivation method be a match for your majesty? Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Demon Qi was generated around demon spirit Xiaohua, which turned into a huge demon palm and grabbed at demon Dao Slaughter. Your majesty gave you some benefits, and you really took out demon Saber Slaughter. However, your majesty is curious. How could Slaughter, which has disappeared for millions of years, fall into the hands of a human? Haha! Your majesty has obtained Slaughter. Qiuhong Demon Domain will be your majesty's sooner or later. Facing the demon emperor's demon qi, demon spirit Xiaohua didn't have the slightest bit of resistance. That pool of blood still couldn't form. As the demon palm descended, Slaughter was snatched away from demon spirit Xiaohua's hand without any suspense. That demon palm danced about, causing cracks to appear in the nearby void. Blood spurted out from these cracks like spring water, as if the demon saber had injured the space. Ha ha ha! Demon Emperor really laughed wildly. Another arm stretched out from under his armpit. That arm raised its hand and grabbed Slaughter from the demon palm. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Xiaohua suddenly waved his left hand, and the Slaughter that was originally controlled by the Devil Emperor's devil palm suddenly raised its blade, and with a swish, it horizontally chopped towards the Devil Monarch's chest. The demonic blade was like a black light of death that instantly landed on the demonic body. Under the demonic blade, the demonic patterns on the demonic body were immediately cut in half and collapsed piece by piece. The demonic body that Xiaohua couldn't destroy before was destroyed by the black light. Demon Emperor was scared out of his wits. Almost without any hesitation, he rolled back like an iron bridge in an ordinary move. Shua! The black light swept past. Demon Emperor's demon body, which was several zhang in size, was cut off. When that demon body left Demon Emperor, it immediately turned into hundreds of demon heads. After a few howls, it was swallowed by the demon saber. And when Xiaohua's left hand slashed down, Demon Emperor's body had already turned into a pool of blood and disappeared from the spot. Hee hee. Xiaohua sneered. Are you leaving now? My dear Demon Emperor, don't you think it's a bit late? This Xiao racked his brains to prepare so many wonderful things for you. Don't you want to see a few more? With that, Xiaohua patted the top of his head. Boom! 5 colored true qi spurted out and turned into a petal that looked like a jade archive. Dressed in Confucian robes, Xiaohua stood on the petal with a solemn expression. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua flew out. Without saying a word, he waved his sleeve and the 9 continents cauldrons landed in the air. The 9 cauldrons issued a rumbling sound and flew towards the place where Demon Emperor disappeared. The righteous qi on the cauldrons shattered the demon blood paradise. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua raised his hand, and one of the 5 colored petals above his head fell into his hand. Soon after, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua soared into the sky. The petal in his hand turned into a heart shape and fell towards a certain place in space. As soon as the heart-shaped petal flew out, an unparalleled righteous qi broke through the confinement of space and revealed Demon Emperor's figure in the void. At this time, the Demon Emperor's devil qi surged in front of his chest and turned into bubbles of various sizes. These bubbles not only had a tendency to spread, but also had a tendency to burst. As soon as Demon Emperor's figure appeared, the 9 continents cauldrons rushed out. The 9 vast righteous qi firmly trapped Demon Emperor. As for the 5-colored heart shape, it quickly melted the demon blood paradise and turned into a rainbow that rushed towards Demon Emperor, causing him to tremble with fear again. This is Demon Emperor's one eye opened wide, revealing a look of doubt and panic. He looked at the 9 continents cauldrons and the 5-colored true qi. He muttered and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood fell in the air and turned into a huge demon head that rushed towards the heart shape, wanting to resist the righteous qi. However, before the devil could fly more than 10 feet, a low voice sounded from Xiao Hua's direction. Namo Mithreya Buddha. The devil emperor trembled violently as if he was struck by lightning. He raised his head and looked at Xiao Hua with even more disbelief. Above Xiao Hua's head, Buddhist light spurted out. Buddha Bodhi flew out with a monk's staff in his hand, and a kasaya of the million Buddhas picture draped over his body. As soon as Bodhi appeared, the chanting of the million Buddhas sounded. Buddhist light gushed out from the kasaya. Various phantoms of Buddha lords flew out from the Buddhist light and protected Bodhi in the middle. Although Bodhi's figure was only 8 feet tall, his golden body was very condensed. The Buddhist light was even more powerful than the righteous qi and pierced through the demon blood paradise. The lotus platform under Bodhi's feet surged with a strange fragrance and Buddhist clouds. Within the Buddhist light, the demons and demon flames in the vicinity of several li turned into green smoke. Wails and cries of agony could be heard incessantly. Buddha, Buddha. As strong as the demon emperor was, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Bodhi appear. He stuttered and couldn't continue. Bodhi raised his left hand, and the monk's staff turned into the shape of a dragon. It roared and pounced towards the demon emperor. Wherever the monk's staff passed, heavenly flowers would appear and kill the demons. Bodhi controlled the lotus platform to fly past the path of heavenly flowers and pounce towards the demon emperor. Bodhi began to chant Buddhist scriptures, and a series of ripples appeared in the air. Although the ripples were invisible, the Nephilim emperor retreated as if he had seen his nemesis. He did not even have time to worry about the blood demon that he had just spat out. Namo Mithreya Buddha. Seeing that the demon emperor was about to retreat, Bodhi reached into his bosom and took out an item. He shook his hand and threw it out. Shwa. The item unfolded and Buddhist light spilled out. A Buddha statue of Mahavairakana appeared in the sky. It was the Mahavairakana Buddha that Xiao Hua obtained from the West Sea. The Buddha statue of Mahavairakana Buddha appeared. Even though he was facing the demon emperor, there was no change in his merciful eyes. The Buddha Lord chanted, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Then, he raised his right hand and gently stretched out his index finger. A small world appeared where the Buddhist light was. Then, his index finger streaked across the sky and landed on the demon emperor's head. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Waves of Buddhist chants and the sound of wooden fish rang out. The demon emperor's demonic body that even the soaring dragon scissors couldn't destroy immediately glowed with Buddhist light. The demonic patterns on the demon emperor's body broke inch by inch, and the demon emperor rolled wildly in the sky. -13. Chapter 4108. Woo woo. 2 ghostly cries rang out. 2 pitch-black devils rushed out from the devil emperor's body, their eyes flashing with blood-red light. In a flash, They arrived in front of Xiaohua and Bodhi. When the devil's pitch-black bodies were destroyed by the righteous Qi and Buddhist light, the two devils with only their blood-red cores crashed into Xiaohua and Bodhi's bodies. Boom boom. Two muffled sounds rang out. The devils crashed into the chests of Xiaohua and Bodhi, creating a hole in their chests. The moment the devils exploded, the bodies of the two avatars shook violently. In particular, Bodhi's body collapsed rapidly. Even his lotus throne seemed to be stained with ink. Damn it! When the demon emperor saw that his two nemesis were injured, he couldn't help but curse. He struggled to stabilize himself in midair. At this moment, the demon blood wonderland that covered thousands of miles had already begun to tremble and was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, another change occurred. Strands of dark green light appeared in midair. Then, countless green seal script characters swarmed toward the Devil Emperor like a swarm of tadpoles. When they got close to the Devil Emperor, the countless green seal script characters combined together. Waves of ghostly noises resounded from the void. One after another, the thunder of three corpses pounced on the Devil Emperor like a flood. Woo! Woo! The Devil Emperor seemed to be weeping and shocked at the same time. The appearance of the green seal characters was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The Devil Emperor's devil body had already been destroyed by the Buddha's light, and now it had been severely damaged by the soul cultivator Xiaohua's lightning and thunder technique. The famous Devil Emperor only said a few words and did not dare to fight anymore. His figure turned into a wisp of devil qi and fled into the distance. As the Devil Emperor fled, the demon blood utopia surrounding Xiaohua immediately collapsed and disappeared with a rumble. The devil spirit Xiaohua turned into a dispirited human form and collapsed in midair. Xiaohua let out a long sigh of relief. He sensed that the Devil Emperor used the Devil Realm's concealment technique that he was very familiar with. Xiaohua's spirit was shaken again. He shouted, "Fellow Taoists, kill!" As he spoke, Xiaohua's figure flickered, and he took the injured devil spirit Xiaohua into his body. The sound of thunder shook the heavens and the earth as a bolt of lightning tore through the sky and chased after the Devil Emperor. Soul Cultivator Xiaohua, Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua, and Buddha Subhoodie surrounded Xiaohua and chased after him. Xiaohua really didn't expect that the Soul Cultivator Xiaohua's green seal script, the Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua's innate true qi, and Buddha Bodhi's Buddhist light could actually injure the Devil Emperor. Although the Confucian Cultivator Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi were both injured, Xiaohua knew that the Devil Emperor's injuries were even more severe. Today, he relied on his three doppelgangers and the Devil Blade to injure the Devil Emperor when he least expected it. It would be extremely difficult for him to have such a good opportunity in the future. If he didn't kill the Devil Emperor today, he would definitely die in the future. After all, the Devil Emperor wasn't someone a ninth-grade origin energy realm like him could resist. Although the Devil Emperor escaped quickly, Xiaohua's lightning escape technique had already reached perfection. How could he let the Devil Emperor escape? In just a short moment, although the Devil Emperor had escaped for hundreds of thousands of li, Xiaohua and the others were still easily chasing after him. A huge mountain appeared in front of the Devil Emperor. The Devil Emperor turned his head and glanced at Xiaohua. Xiaohua actually saw a strange smile in the Devil Emperor's bloody eyes. The Devil Emperor plunged into the mountain. Xiaohua raised his hand and signaled his three doppelgangers to come closer. He followed without hesitation. His figure flickered as he activated the Devil Realm's concealment technique and rushed into the void. Wong wong wong. A rumbling sound suddenly came from the left side of Xiaohua. Then, the entire void rolled, as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. Damn it! Xiaohua was shocked. Damn it! I was too greedy. Did I fall into the Devil Emperor's trap? However, the light and shadow around Xiaohua changed. Everything rushed into Xiaohua's mind like a stream of light. Xiaohua did not feel any attack. Moreover, as the scene before his eyes gradually calmed down, Xiaohua's mind was in a mess. It was like a pot of porridge. It was as if someone had stuffed a lot of things into his mind, but he just could not remember what they were. This is... Xiaohua shook his head, trying his best to shake off the heavy feeling. However, the more he shook his head, the more confused his mind became. Xiaohua could only raise his head. When he saw everything in front of him, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Is this the Star Moon Palace?" Indeed, in front of Xiaohua was a distorted void. In this space, a huge palace emitted a faint nine-colored light and stood there. Although the palace was very far away from Xiaohua, he could clearly see the three large words above the palace door. It said, "Star Moon Palace." How is this possible? Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Didn't Do Jun say that the Star Moon Palace is somewhere in the hidden immortal continent? How can it be in the space of the ruins? Fellow Taoist, have you forgotten? At this moment, another voice sounded behind Xiaohua. Zhu Qing from Zhaixing Lu said clearly that the Star Moon Palace is a relic left behind in the three continents from the upper realm. The upper realm that he mentioned, isn't it the ruins here? Ah. Xiaohua was shocked and suddenly turned his head. He saw the dragon-veined Xiaohua standing behind him and smiling. Beside the dragon-veined Xiaohua, the bone-tempering Xiaohua, the phoenix body Xiaohua, and the demon spirit Xiaohua were also standing there with smiles. The dragon-veined Xiaohua was wearing a golden dragon robe, and the dragon horns on his head were very obvious. The bone-tempering Xiaohua was almost naked and only wore a short shirt to cover his private parts. The phoenix body Xiaohua was wearing colorful clothes, and there were wings between his arms. As for the demon spirit Xiaohua, he was completely black, and there were obvious demon patterns flashing on his face. You. Xiaohua was a little confused. He pointed at the four doppelgangers and didn't know what he wanted to say. The demon spirit Xiaohua also smiled and said, "Brothers, let's speed up." The demon emperor flew here and disappeared. He must have discovered the Star Moon Palace hidden in the void. He must be hiding in the Star Moon Palace. Let's hurry over and kill him, so that we can take revenge for injuring us earlier. That's right. Xiaohua gnashed his teeth as well. This Devil Emperor is too cunning, and his strength is too formidable as well. If we don't kill him today, then we'll definitely not have such a good opportunity in the future. Of course, if we can find the spatial crack to return to the hidden immortal mainland from the Star Moon Palace, it will be killing two birds with one stone. The dragon-veined Xiaohua agreed. Okay. Hearing the doppelganger's agreement, Xiaohua nodded and waved his hand. We will enter the Star Moon Palace now and find the way back while killing the Demon Emperor. Hee, if there are any treasures, we can't let them go. The bone-tempering Xiaohua said with a low laugh. Immediately after, Xiaohua led the four clones and flew towards the Xingyue Palace. When they got closer, Xiaohua discovered that the huge Xingyue Palace was surrounded by an inexplicable spatial turbulence. Within the turbulence, starlight was scattered, and it seemed as though one would be shredded if they looked into it. Moreover, there was a huge suction force within the turbulence, pulling his body into the turbulence. In the end, when they were not far from the gate of Star Moon Palace, Xiaohua could barely fly and had to land. Fortunately, there were more than a dozen floating boulders in the turbulence. Xiaohua and his four doppelgangers followed the boulders and jumped to the stairs in front of the palace. Damn it, this is too dangerous. If it weren't for my nimbleness, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the turbulence. Xiaohua cursed as he jumped over the last boulder. The bone-tempering Xiaohua smiled and said, "Even I think it's fine. How can something happen to you?" Hee, this is our opportunity. There must be countless treasures in the Star Moon Palace. The demon spirit Xiaohua also seemed to have learned to be greedy and replied, there's someone in the Bright Moon Palace? Xiaohua and the others had just stood on the stairs when the phoenix body Xiaohua's sharp eyes pointed to a place above the palace and exclaimed, "It must be the Devil Emperor." The demon spirit looked up, only to see a figure swaying. He unconsciously gritted his teeth and shouted, "Let's hurry up and catch up. When this little brother swallows this Devil Emperor, this little brother will also reach the Devil Emperor realm. In the future, this little brother will be able to help all of you. Let's go." Xiaohua nodded and urged his spiritual power to rush to the palace door. However, when he reached the steps of the palace door, he couldn't even sense a trace of true essence. Xiaohua frowned slightly and was about to raise his hand to take out the wishful staff, but he suddenly found that he couldn't perceive the space at all. Everything in the space couldn't be taken out. Oh, what should I do? Xiaohua was shocked and immediately wanted to retreat. However, just as he turned his head and was about to discuss with the dragon vein Xiaohua and the other doppelgangers, he found that the boulder that he had stepped on before had disappeared into the turbulence, and there was no trace of it. What's wrong, fellow Taoist? Dragon vein Xiaohua saw Xiaohua's expression change and asked strangely, What? You don't know? Xiaohua was once again stunned. Although he had already mastered the external incarnation technique and his 4 clones were able to go out independently, his external incarnation technique had yet to reach the great perfection stage. His 4 clones were still connected to Xiaohua's thoughts most of the time. Xiaohua's surprise just now was not hidden from his 4 clones. If it was normal, Xiaohua and the others should have been able to sense the dragon vein. Dragon vein Xiaohua was puzzled and shrugged. How would I know what fellow Taoist is thinking? It's a little strange. Xiaohua frowned and looked up at the plaque of the Star Moon Palace. He whispered, Could it be because of the Star Moon Palace? What's strange? Phoenix Body Xiaohua was also puzzled and asked. Don't worry. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and raised his hand to slap the top of his head. Unfortunately, there was no change. Whether it was the soul cultivator Xiaohua or the scholarly cultivator Xiaohua, even the green-robed Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi did not appear. Huh, what's going on? Xiaohua looked at Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the others, and his heart was even more puzzled. Since they are all doppelgangers, why can these doppelgangers appear beside this Xiao, but the others can't? But if the soul cultivator Xiaohua and the others can't appear, how can this Xiao be the opponent of the Devil Emperor? -13. Chapter 4109. But now, do we still have a way out? Xiaohua smiled bitterly as he looked at the turbulence behind him. Without transcendence energy, Xiaohua had no confidence in escaping from the turbulence. Xiaohua raised his head to look at the top of the Star Moon Palace where the Demon Emperor had appeared. His eyes narrowed as he bit his lips and pondered for a moment. He waved his hand and said, Fellow cultivators, this Star Moon Palace is a little strange. It seems like we can't use our transcendence energy and other remarkable abilities. Since the demon spirit Xiaohua is the same, I believe the Demon Emperor is not much stronger than us. There are 5 of us and only 1 Demon Emperor, so we have the advantage. Let's go. If we don't kill the Demon Emperor today, I'm afraid we won't have another chance in the future. Okay, Long Mai, Xiaohua, and the others nodded and cheered without any objections. Xiaohua calmed down and carefully walked up the steps of the Star Moon Palace. After walking for half a cup of tea's time, the 5 of them finally arrived in front of the palace door. The palace gate was at least 1,000 feet long, and there were many patterns engraved on the palace gate. The patterns seemed to be talismans and also seemed to be inscriptions, and they were somewhat similar to dragon patterns. However, when Xiaohua and the others looked at it, they all felt a little dizzy. Xiaohua's already somewhat heavy mind became even more unclear. Xiaohua raised his hand and wanted to push the palace door, but when he stretched out his arm, the palace door actually went through as if it was invisible. Xiaohua turned his head and pointed to the sides. Long Mai, Xiaohua, and the others hurriedly stood in a line in front of the palace door. Following Xiaohua's 3, 2, 1, the 5 of them rushed through the palace door at the same time. Xiaohua's vision blurred. When he looked again, he was standing in an extremely huge palace. The floor of the palace was paved with blue stone that was dozens of feet wide. There was nothing in the palace, not even a single pillar. On the 2 sides of the palace, and in the depths of the palace, there were 4 palace doors embedded in the stone walls. Xiaohua tried to release his divine perception and soul consciousness, but to no avail. He could only look left and right at the dragon vein, Xiaohua, and the others. These 4 clones also smiled bitterly. Presumably, they couldn't use any of their abilities. 5th, 8th, and 9th grade Essence Force experts were no different from ordinary men in this Star Moon Palace. The Devil Emperor we saw earlier was at the top of the Star Moon Palace. Dragon Vein Xiaohua looked at the palace doors around him and said, That guy must have gone up through the steps behind the palace doors. It looks like we have to chase after them too. Don't be anxious. Xiaohua said softly. There are many opportunities in this stellar moon palace. Now that we have lost all our dermic powers and divine abilities, if we don't find any dermic artifacts to protect ourselves, it will be difficult to withstand the Fiend Monarch's attacks. Not bad. Devil Spirit Xiaohua agreed. That guy came in early. Maybe he already found some handy devil tool. We are definitely not his match with our bare hands. If he had found a suitable demonic weapon, why would he need to hide at the top of the Star Moon Palace? Phoenix Body Xiaohua retorted. He must be lying in ambush here, waiting for us to stand firm before killing us, right? Hee, Big Brother Phoenix Body is right. Devil Spirit Xiaohua laughed. However, there are many of us, so there are many chances to find dermic artifacts. As long as we don't get separated, even if we encounter the Devil Emperor, we can still charge at him together. Humph. As long as there is no Devil Blood Paradise, why would I be afraid of him? Bone-honed Xiaohua sneered, full of fighting spirit. No need to say more. We will search first. Xiaohua's eyes turned a few times. Then he led the way to a palace door on the right side of the palace. After walking through the palace door, Xiaohua was stunned again, because behind this palace door was another palace, and inside this palace, there were 4 more palace doors. Damn it! Xiaohua almost cursed. What he was most afraid of in his life was finding his way. This Star Moon Palace was obviously a huge maze. Wasn't this playing with him to death? Not to mention killing some Devil Emperor. Just this tangled and complicated path was enough to kill him. Big brother, look. Devil Spirit Xiaohua was still quick-witted, hurriedly raising his hand to point at the top of the palace and shouted, "There are words here." Sure enough, Xiaohua raised his head to look, and on the palace ceiling that was as high as the sky, a row of floating cloud-like words appeared, A2. Xiaohua was bewildered and asked curiously, "What does this mean?" Not only Xiaohua, but Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the other doppelgangers were also puzzled. This palace was the same size as the previous one, and similarly, there was nothing. Without using divine perception, one could understand it with one's naked eye. Xiaohua was helpless and led the 4 doppelgangers into another palace door. Sure enough, behind the palace door was another identical palace, but this palace had A2 written on the roof. I understand. Xiaohua suddenly shouted. This is the palace's serial number. Just like the rooms in the inn in Jinghua City, there are heaven and earthwards. This is the 7th palace of the A Palace. That palace from before must be the 2nd palace of the A Palace. In that case, the first palace we entered should be A1. Fellow Taoist is wise. Dragon Vein Xiaohua gave a thumbs up and praised. Such a complicated thing. I'm afraid I and the others have no way of knowing. Let's go. Xiaohua said with a smile. Let's look further inside. Sure enough, as they walked further inside, they saw A2. In other words, just as Xiaohua guessed. However, as everyone walked deeper into the Star Moon Palace, although they did not see any treasures, the deeper Xiaohua went, the more doubts he had in his heart. Dragon Vein Xiaohua was a little surprised, looked at Xiaohua and asked, Fellow Taoist, why is your expression so ugly? Xiaohua pinched his chin, standing at the entrance of the 2 palaces, looked left and right, and said in a low voice, Fellow Taoists, I seem to have a familiar feeling. It seems like I have been here before. How is that possible? Dragon Vein Xiaohua said in shock. These palaces look exactly the same. How can fellow Taoists distinguish them? Also, how can fellow Taoists have been to the Star Moon Palace before? I don't know either. Xiaohua frowned, his gaze deeply staring at the words on the palaces, and answered with some confusion, Maybe it's just a feeling? Crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from a place not far away. Bone-honing Xiaohua was shocked, glanced at Xiaohua and the others, and shouted, Who? As he spoke, his figure hurriedly rushed over, and Dragon Vein Xiaohua and the others did not dare to delay, following Bone-honing Xiaohua through a few palace doors to a palace. At the entrance of this palace, a jade slip lay peacefully on the ground, and the words Etu floated above the palace. Someone's here? Bone-honing Xiaohua bent down to pick up the jade slip, and his figure hurriedly ran to the 4 palace doors to take a look. Only then did he turn back in surprise, shook his head and said, I didn't find him, That guy ran away extremely quickly. Damn it. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice. It's really troublesome to not have an elemental sense. Otherwise, wouldn't we know with a sweep? This. Xiao Hua looked at the jade slip in bone-honing Xiao Hua's hand and said with a somewhat pale face, "This is I's jade slip. Yours?" Bone-honing Xiao Hua asked curiously, "How could it be your jade slip?" Xiao Hua hurriedly reached into his bosom, but did not take out anything. He reached out and took the jade slip from bone-honing Xiao Hua's hand, looked at it carefully and sighed, "There's no mistake. This is the jade slip that Bai Ming from White Cloud Temple gave to I. Because I wanted White Cloud Temple's orthodoxy, this jade slip was not in my eyes, so I did not put it into the space and only kept it in my bosom. But I didn't expect the jade slip in my bosom to disappear, and I don't know how it got here." The Dragon Vein Xiao Hua said disdainfully, "Fellow Taoist, you don't have divine sense now, so how do you know this is Bai Ming's jade slip? Anything can happen in the Star Moon Palace. Fellow Taoist's feelings are not reliable." All right. Xiao Hua did not intend to convince anyone, so he put the jade slip away and said, "Let's continue looking. Since there was movement just now, maybe the Devil Emperor has returned. Let's be careful." Yes. The four doppelgangers looked at each other, and vigilance appeared in their eyes. As Xiao Hua walked out of the hall, the five of them were abnormally vigilant. Unfortunately, the five of them searched for the time it took to drink a cup of tea, but did not find any trace of the Devil Emperor. Instead, they found something strange in the depths of Star Moon Palace, in a hall with a 71 floating on the roof. This hall was different from what Xiao Hua and the others had seen before. There were some irregular mirrors on the four walls, and under the mirrors, there was an empty stone table. In front of the hall, there were several extremely tiered sacrificial tables. On the sacrificial tables, besides some strange spirit fruits, there was also a huge statue. This statue was not in the shape of a human. Its entire body was transparent, and there were some 7 colors flowing inside. Every time a wisp of 7 colors floated by, a layer of light fog would be produced, enveloping the statue. The statue had 3 arms, 5 legs, and its entire body was in the shape of a strange whirlpool, like a flipping ribbon. The statue had 3 heads, each facing the 3 directions of the hall, and these 3 heads looked like human faces, looking exactly the same. However, when Xiao Hua and the others looked carefully, their faces were blurry, and they could not see clearly. "It's too strange. What kind of statue is this? It looks like the bones of a celestial being." Phoenix Body Xiao Hua walked to the front of the statue and looked it up and down. His gaze then fell on the spirit fruits, and he casually picked up a fist-sized spirit fruit to take a closer look. The spirit fruit looked very fresh, as if it had just been plucked from a spirit tree, and a strange fragrance rushed into his nose. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua could not help but open his mouth, and with a crunch, he bit off a piece. When the spirit fruit fell into his mouth, it melted into juice, and an enchanting sweet fragrance instantly spread throughout the hall. Phoenix Body Xiao Hua saw Phoenix Body Xiao Hua pick up the spirit fruit and was about to stop him, but the corner of his eyes occasionally swept over, and it really did fall on a mirror on the stone wall. A vague shadow flashed on it, and then disappeared, so he could not see clearly who it was. Who? Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly turned to look at the door near the mirror. -13. Chapter 41:10. Bone-honing Xiao Hua and Dragon Vein Xiao Hua originally wanted to follow Phoenix Body Xiao Hua to get the spirit fruit, but when they heard Xiao Hua shout, they stopped and turned to look at the palace door. However, the entrance of the palace was completely empty. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Bone-honing Xiao Hua frowned, picked up a spirit fruit, took a bite, and walked towards the palace door, vaguely calling out, "Damn, could it be the Demon Emperor again? What is this guy doing pretending to be mysterious? Is he trying to lure us into an ambush?" "Fellow Taoist, be careful," Xiao Hua said anxiously. "We'll go take a look together." "Hee." Bone-honing Xiao Hua laughed. "No need. I want to see if the Demon Emperor's bones are harder or if I's bones are harder." "Fellow Taoist, why do you have to act alone?" Xiao Hua opened his mouth, But before he finished speaking, Dragon Vein Xiaohua in the distance laughed. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to pay attention to him. The demon emperor has lost his demonic weapon, so I'm afraid he can't do anything to fellow Taoist. Come and taste this spirit fruit. It seems to be good for our physical strength. Okay. Xiaohua also felt a little exhausted at this time. Seeing bone-honing Xiaohua's figure disappear at the palace door, he turned and walked towards the spirit fruit. Bone-honing Xiaohua said disdainfully, but he was also vigilant in his heart. While eating the spirit fruit, he carefully walked into the palace next door. However, this palace was empty, and there was nothing. Bone-honing Xiaohua was a little unwilling, and he walked through a few more palaces before preparing to return. However, just as he turned around, a pong sound came from the palace not far away. The bone-honing Xiaohua was startled. He clenched his fists and tiptoed over. This was a palace hall that was exactly the same as before. The words A40 floated on top of the palace hall. There was no one inside the palace hall, but the two doors in front of the palace hall were flashing with 7 colored rays of light. Bone-honing Xiaohua slowly walked in front of the rays of light, took a look, and then his figure disappeared into the palace door. Xiaohua stayed in the palace that seemed to be a statue. He picked up a spirit fruit, stared at it for a moment, and put it in his mouth to take a bite. Sure enough, when the juice of the spirit fruit entered his stomach, a burst of heat gushed out, spreading to Xiaohua's limbs, and that rare state of exhaustion from before was somewhat alleviated. Damn it! Xiaohua's eyes turned quickly. Looking at the spirit fruit and that strange statue, he thought to himself, what's this situation? Ever since I started cultivating, I have never felt exhausted. Even if I was seriously injured, even if I lost all my magic power, I have never felt this way. In this Star Moon Palace, could it be that I've become immortal? If I'm immortal, thinking of this Xiao was suddenly startled, and an indescribable fear rose from the bottom of his heart. If this Xiao was immortal, wouldn't this Xiao be killed by a random demonic tool? Since eyes, Hua's eyes, to Xiao, Xiao, Hua Xiao, Hua, Xiao to, Zhao's, Xiao, S to return. Okay. Xiao Hua swallowed the spirit fruit in his hand, clapped his hands, and stood up. Seeing that phoenix body Xiao Hua and devil spirit Xiao Hua also wanted to follow, Xiao Hua's heart moved and he said, you two wait here. If we don't find fellow Taoist tempered bones, and he comes back by himself, wouldn't we be rushing for nothing? You two wait here, you can be considered a backup. Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua looked at each other and said at the same time, that's fine too. The two of us will wait here. You two shouldn't be afraid of the Devil Emperor's sneak attack. Xiao Hua nodded, and then said to Xiao Hua, you were a bit reckless earlier, Xiao Hua. You shouldn't have let Xiao Hua go alone. Xiao Hua frowned, showing slight displeasure. Xiao Hua didn't want to let Xiao Hua go alone, but wasn't it because of Xiao Hua's words that Xiao Hua gave up chasing? However, thinking that these clones were all separated from his primordial spirit, Xiao Hua didn't say anything. Without looking back, he chased after the bone-honing Xiao Hua and entered the hall. Wait for me, Dao friend, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua said and hurriedly chased after him. Only Phoenix Body Xiao Hua and Devil Spirit Xiao Hua were left in the hall. Xiao Hua entered the hall, looked at the scenery that was no different from before, and then looked at the words on the roof and said loudly, where is Xiao Hua? Xiao Hua didn't respond, and Xiao Hua took Xiao Hua of the dragon to choose a door to continue searching. However, after searching for half a cup of tea's time, he still didn't see Xiao Hua's figure, and even Xiao Hua himself was a bit lost. No, just as he was about to step into a door, Xiao Hua of the dragon hurriedly shouted, Dao friend, we've just passed through this door. We should go to that door. Xiao Hua looked around and said doubtfully, no, I don't think we've been here before. We've definitely been here before. Xiao Hua of the dragon said with a smile, Dao friend's sense of direction is not strong. Naturally, you can't sense it, but I can see it. This. Xiao Hua hesitated slightly, thought for a moment and said, how about this, we'll go in and take a look first. If we've really been here, we'll go back to that hall. How about it? No need, right? Xiao Hua of the dragon said somewhat proudly, I still have this confidence. Let's go. Xiao Hua was too lazy to say anything more to him and stepped into the hall. Xiao Hua of the dragon saw Xiao Hua enter without permission and was a little displeased. He chased after him and said anxiously, Why don't you believe I's words? However, after entering the hall, although it was also empty, the text number was indeed unfamiliar. It was the place where Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon had never been. Have you been here before? Xiao Hua asked coldly. Xiao Hua of the dragon was a little embarrassed and argued forcefully, I haven't been here, but I seem to have been here before. Xiao Hua frowned again, glared at Xiao Hua of the dragon, and didn't say anything else. He looked around and shouted, Where is Dao friend Xiao Hua? Seeing that there was no sound again, Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon once again looked for another hall. Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua of the dragon vein had different opinions. Xiao Hua wanted to go in this direction, while Xiao Hua wanted to go in that direction. After several compromises, both of them had their own right and wrong. Finally, after arriving at a palace, Xiao Hua said coldly, Fellow Taoist dragon vein, are you listening to this poor Taoist, or this poor Taoist will listen to you? I'll listen to whoever is right. Xiao Hua of the dragon's expression was also indifferent and replied, I feel that Dao friend can't distinguish the direction. After searching for so long, you still haven't found Dao friend Xiao Hua, and now I'm afraid you've already lost your way. Why don't you listen to I? You are a clone of I. Xiao Hua was a little angry. How can I listen to you? Xiao Hua of the dragon smiled and replied, Dao friend is right. I am a clone of Dao friend. But don't forget, fellow Taoist, since you've created our clones and cultivated the external incarnation technique, then we are no longer simple clones, nor are we the clones of the dragon clan. We're real cultivators. Since we are real cultivators, why must I listen to you? This, Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. He had always treated his avatar as himself, and his avatar would come and go as he pleased. Similarly, his avatar would also obey his orders and would never resist. What Xiao Hua had said about the dragon vein, he had never thought about it. However, what Xiao Hua of the dragon said was right. What was the purpose of cultivating clones? Previously, he wanted to find a helper for himself, but since it was a helper, he had to cultivate the external incarnation technique and let the 10 primordial spirits cultivate separately. But since he wanted the 10 primordial spirits to cultivate separately, it was inevitable that they would have their own personalities. It was inevitable that they would be independent. Xiao Hua had already noticed some signs of this situation in the heaven prison. Sometimes, he might not know what Xiao Hua of the dragon race and the other clones were thinking, especially when they were hiding something from him. He was unable to detect it. Xiao Hua was already somewhat vigilant towards this abnormality. One of the reasons why he looked for Baiyun Monastery and even rescued the 10 Southwest sects was to obtain the inheritance of these sections. The Tao cultivators of the ruins did not cultivate nascent soul but primordial spirit. Xiao Hua could not obtain the solution from the cultivation of Confucian cultivators, so he wanted to find some solutions from the Tao sects of the ruins. However, Xiao Hua still did not expect that Xiao Hua of the dragon race would have such an idea just after the battle with the Devil Emperor. Since Xiao Hua of the dragon race had it, wouldn't the bone-tempering Xiao Hua and the other clones also have it? And the bone-tempering Xiao Hua who went to find the Devil Emperor by himself, wasn't it a manifestation of wanting to be independent? He did not seem to understand and was kept in the dark like this. Seeing that Xiao Hua was silent, Xiao Hua of the dragon race smiled and said, Since Dao friend is lost, why don't you let I lead the way? With that, Xiao Hua of the dragon race waved his sleeves and walked towards a palace door. Xiao Hua looked at Xiao Hua of the dragon race's back and felt that it was exceptionally unfamiliar. He pondered for a moment and followed him. As soon as the two of them passed through the palace door, they heard a huge rumbling sound from inside the palace. Haha, I was right, right? I really haven't been here before. Xiao Hua of the dragon race laughed loudly and pointed at a corner of the palace. Xiao Hua's face was full of dark clouds. He looked at the corner of the palace and saw that there was really a cauldron for refining weapons. The fire in the cauldron was boiling, and something that looked like a sword embryo was floating quietly above the fire. The fire in the cauldron looked purple-green and the temperature was extremely high, But the color of the sword embryo did not change at all, as if the cauldron had no effect at all. Xiaohua felt a sense of familiarity in his heart, but he couldn't tell where he had seen him before. Almost at the same time, Xiaohua of the dragon race also had a strange feeling in his mouth and cried out in surprise, what is that? Xiaohua was shocked and hurriedly followed Xiaohua of the dragon race's finger again. He saw that there were some bloodstains on the ground on the other side of the cauldron, and a line of blurry handwriting was written next to the bloodstains. To a 31. See? Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air and said anxiously, This is the blood of the bone-tempering Xiaohua? When did he have flesh? -13. Chapter 4111. Fellow Taoist. Dragon Vein Xiaohua was somewhat dissatisfied and said indifferently, We have flesh and blood since our avatars. Fellow Taoist must have looked down on us, so you never thought about it, right? No. Xiaohua shook his head and said, Even if fellow Taoist Tempered Bones was injured, he would still rush back to find us. How could he go to A31? This must be a trap of the Demon Emperor. We should hurry back and meet up with fellow Taoist Phoenix Body and fellow Taoist Demon Spirit. After speaking, Xiaohua turned and left. However, when he walked to the door, he was stunned again. He turned and said, Fellow Taoist Dragon Vein, why aren't you moving? Dragon Vein Xiaohua's words almost angered Xiaohua to the point of smoke coming out of his 7 orifices. This poor Taoist feels that this was left behind by fellow Taoist Tempered Bones. He was seriously injured and was rushing to A31 Hall. He is currently waiting for our rescue. We should go to A31 Hall first. Fellow Taoist, are you sick? Xiaohua said angrily. How does fellow Taoist Tempered Bones know about A31? Why didn't he return to A31? Why did he go to A31? Naturally, it's because A31 is close to here. Moreover, presumably fellow Taoist Tempered Bones also came from A31. He knows there is a hiding place there. Dragon Vein Xiaohua pointed at the hall and said indifferently. Xiaohua looked up. Sure enough, A28 was written on it. Just looking at the number, it was indeed not far from A31. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said, I don't think it's possible for Xiaohua to run so far. This is a trap of the Demon Emperor. I have to rush back to A31. As for where to go, you choose yourself. The fellow Taoist in Xiaohua's mouth had now become you. After speaking, Xiaohua passed through the hall door without looking back. Of course, Xiaohua stood outside the hall door and waited for half a cup of tea's time, but he still didn't see Dragon Vein Xiaohua come out. Xiaohua sighed slightly. He was very disappointed in his heart, as if he had lost something. He turned around and walked towards A31 according to his memory. After walking through so many palaces, Xiaohua saw a lot of palace numbers. Although these numbers didn't have any particular pattern, Xiaohua still knew them from big to small. Without too many twists and turns, Xiaohua returned to Palace Hall A71. However, to Xiaohua's disappointment, no matter if it was the Phoenix Body Xiaohua or the Devil Spirit Xiaohua, they were not in the hall. Xiaohua couldn't help but punch the stone wall of the hall and cursed, Damn it! These clones look like they're about to rebel. See. Just as he finished cursing, a sharp pain came from Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked at his fist in disbelief, only to see that it was badly mutilated and blood was flowing out. Damn it! Xiaohua looked at the faint bloodstains on the stone wall and couldn't help but curse again. Ever since he started cultivating, when had he ever been injured by punching a stone wall? With a wave of his hand, Xiaohua wiped away the bloodstains on the stone wall. Xiaohua was startled, but he saw that there were some black marks under the bloodstains. He hadn't noticed them before, but now they were especially eye-catching. However, just when Xiaohua wanted to take a closer look, a series of footsteps came from the distant palace door. Xiaohua hurriedly turned his head and saw Xiaohua, who was covered in blood, stumbling in from the side of the palace door. Fellow Taoist Bone Tempering. What was going on? What happened? Was it a trap set by the Demon Emperor? Xiaohua was greatly alarmed and hastily ran over. Just as Xiaohua passed by the statue, he was once again alarmed. Because all the spirit fruits that were previously placed on the statue were now rotten, and the smell of dust assailed his nostrils. However, Xiaohua couldn't care about these abnormalities now. He hurriedly wanted to run over and support Hon Xiaohua, who was about to fall down at any time. However, just as Xiaohua approached Hon Xiaohua, and before Xiaohua's arm could touch Hon Xiaohua, he saw Hon Xiaohua's bloody fist. Boom! Xiaohua was caught off guard and was hit in the chest. Xiaohua's figure was sent flying along with the wind from the fist, and he felt an indescribable dizziness. Xiaohua's mouth was sweet, and it seemed that blood was gushing out from his body. The robe on his chest was also torn by Hon Xiaohua. Damn it! Xiaohua was in the air. Seeing Hon Xiaohua rushing over again, Xiaohua was shocked and said, "Hon Xiaohua, are you crazy?" Woo-woo. Unfortunately, Hon Xiaohua whimpered and didn't allow Xiaohua to say anything. He rushed forward and punched Xiaohua. Seeing this, Xiaohua was helpless. He used the ethereal steps and used the Big Dipper magical fist to fight Hon Xiaohua. Hon Xiaohua was originally Xiaohua's clone. Although he practiced the Big Dipper magical fist a lot, how could he be Xiaohua's opponent? However, bone-tempering Xiaohua's body was sturdy. Xiaohua didn't dare to meet force with force a few times and could only dodge. While Xiaohua was dodging, he anxiously said, "Bone-tempering fellow Taoist, what happened? Where are you injured? Is it the Demon Emperor's doing? Where is the Demon Emperor?" Roar! Hon Xiaohua roared. His eyes were red, and he desperately rushed towards Xiaohua, completely ignoring Xiaohua's question. Xiaohua slightly leaned to the side and dodged Hon Xiaohua's attack. Hon Xiaohua crashed into the huge statue and staggered to the ground. His whole body twitched a few times and stopped moving. His two eyes were wide open, as if he died with grievances. These two eyes were looking at one of the three heads of the statue. Ah, Hon Xiaohua, Hon Xiaohua? Xiaohua truly felt that this was inconceivable. He had never thought that he, or even his doppelganger, would die so easily. Even if he died in the hands of the Devil Emperor, he should have fought until the sky turned dark and the earth turned dark. He walked a few steps, squatted down, and shook Hon Xiaohua's body. He even raised his hand and placed it on Hon Xiaohua's mouth and nose to check. He used his finger to check Hon Xiaohua's pulse, but he didn't find any vitality. After a while, Hon Xiaohua's body gradually turned cold. Xiaohua had no choice but to believe that Hon Xiaohua was really dead. Xiaohua was heartbroken, but he also felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. After all, he didn't know whether Hon Xiaohua was breathing or had a pulse when he was alive. But looking at the coldness of Hon Xiaohua's body and the blood on the ground, Xiaohua couldn't help but believe that after entering the Star Moon Palace, no matter what the cultivator's cultivation was, even if it was a clone, they would be no different from ordinary people and would easily die. Boom! Just as Xiaohua was thinking, a loud sound came from outside the other palace door. It seemed a little ethereal. What is this strange thing? Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't wait to raise his head and immediately shouted, "Which fellow Taoist is here? Quickly come over. Fellow Taoist Hon Xiaohua has fallen." Seeing that there was no reply, Xiaohua hastily got up and rushed towards the source of the voice. After he rushed out of the palace door and made several turns, his eyes suddenly lit up. He entered a large hall that looked like an auction house. This large hall was divided into 2 floors. Xiaohua entered from a high platform. At this moment, Xiaohua, 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 and Xiaohua of the Dragon Bloodline were all present. However, Xiaohua and Xiaohua of the Dragon Bloodline were squatting on the high platform. Xiaohua of the Dragon Bloodline was lying on the ground. Looking at Xiaohua of the Dragon Bloodline's arm that was hanging on the ground, Xiaohua of the Dragon Bloodline had a bad feeling in his heart. "Fellow Taoist Phoenix Body, what's going on? Why are you here? Why aren't you waiting in A71? Xiaohua shouted and quickly rushed over. Unexpectedly, before Xiaohua could get close, Devil Spirit Xiaohua immediately jumped up from the ground and kicked Xiaohua. He said fiercely, "Damn it, you're still asking us what happened? Didn't you kill fellow Taoist Dragon Bloodline? Didn't you also ask us to come? What are you pretending for?" Devil Spirit Xiaohua's punches and kicks were naturally inferior to Xiaohua's. Xiao Hua raised his hand to block devil spirit Xiao Hua and said in surprise, I. I just heard the roar and hurried over from A71. How could I kill fellow Taoist dragon bloodline? Moreover, where's this place? I have never been here before. You're still pretending. Phoenix body Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed. You said to ask fellow Taoist I and devil spirit Xiao Hua to come to A31. Isn't this A31? Xiao Hua was shocked and looked up. Sure enough, a 31 was written on the roof of the palace. Damn it, so A31 is right next to A71. Xiao Hua suddenly realized. However, at this moment, Xiao Hua saw from the corner of his eyes that on the second floor of the pavilion, a cloaked figure slowly stood up. The figure was holding something that looked like a god-slaying crossbow in his hand. Quickly dodge. Xiao Hua was shocked. His figure hurriedly rolled on the ground and rolled toward the palace door on the high platform. Boom! Just like the sound that Xiao Hua heard in the A71 hall, on the second floor of the pavilion. A rumbling sound resounded, and a dark brilliance streaked across the sky like lightning, instantly landing on Xiao Hua's back. Xiao Hua screamed miserably. His entire body fell to the ground, and that huge impact nailed him firmly to the high platform. A jet-black long arrow was inserted into Xiao Hua's back, and that arrow's tail was swaying, while Xiao Hua's body twitched a few times, and a large amount of blood flowed out. Then he stopped moving, and it seemed like he was dead. While rolling, Xiao Hua was shocked to see that the black arrow that nailed Phoenix body Xiao Hua to death was exactly the same as the black arrow that pierced dragon bloodline Xiao Hua's heart. Devil Emperor. This is Devil Emperor. Damn Devil Emperor. Xiao Hua gritted his teeth and looked at the cloaked figure on the second floor of the pavilion. Where did this bastard get this devil weapon? Damn it, we were unarmed in Star Moon Palace. His crossbow is probably 100 times more powerful than the soaring dragon scissors. Boom! Before Xiao Hua rolled to the front of the palace door, the roar of murder sounded again. Xiao Hua felt a sharp cold wind coming. He hurriedly shrank back and tried his best to throw himself to the side. Although his chest was in severe pain from the bone-tempering Xiao Hua's attack, escaping for his life was more important. How could he care about that? -13. Chapter 41:12. PFFF. The powerful impact brushed past Xiao Hua's Taoist robe and tore the Taoist robe under Xiao Hua's armpit. The black arrow brushed past Xiao Hua's skin and nailed itself to the high platform. Xiao Hua was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. Xiao Hua didn't dare to stay any longer. He leaped up and pounced towards the palace door. Boom! Another loud explosion. The demonic spirit Xiao Hua screamed again. At this moment, Xiao Hua had already fled to the palace door. He looked back and saw that the demonic spirit Xiao Hua had been pierced by the Devil Emperor's arrow. Xiao Hua's body was rolling on the high platform, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. The Devil Emperor on the second floor had actually disappeared. It was obvious that he was chasing after Xiao Hua. Damn it! Xiao Hua was really panicking. Is this Star Moon Palace going to be this Xiao's burial ground? It's only been an hour, and all 4 of my clones have been killed by the Devil Emperor. Run! This was the only thought in Xiao Hua's mind. He rushed through the palace door and fled in a certain direction. Xiao Hua's sense of direction wasn't strong to begin with. Now that he was fleeing in panic, he was like a headless fly and gradually lost his way. Even so, Xiao Hua had a strong feeling that the Devil Emperor was right behind him and definitely not too far away. At this moment, Xiao Hua was full of regret. He really shouldn't have coveted the treasures of the Star Moon Palace. He shouldn't have rashly entered the Star Moon Palace when he didn't have the ability to protect himself. It was even to the extent that the more Xiao Hua fled, the clearer his heart became. The words of the phoenix body Xiao Hua and the devil spirit Xiao Hua had originally confused him, but at this moment, he understood that the Devil Emperor was definitely unable to kill him and his 4 clones. So the Devil Emperor had transformed into his appearance to lure the other 2 clones into his trap. Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He had arrived at a place that was different from the previous palaces. In the corner of the hall, there was a weapon rack. Most of the weapons on it were empty. Only at the very edge of the rack was a very ugly and shabby small sword. The small sword was only 3 inches long, and the hilt was wrapped in some rags. There was even some black hair on the edge. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the small sword, and a familiar feeling arose. Although Xiao Hua didn't know why there was a flying sword here, he didn't have any other choice. He raised his hand and grabbed Xiao Jian, and a cold feeling came from the hilt. That coldness caused Xiao Hua to become even calmer. He looked to his left and quickly walked to a palace door. After pondering for a bit, he raised his hand and passed through with the flying sword. However, Xiao Hua didn't directly enter the next palace. Instead, he stayed at the palace door and quietly waited with the flying sword in his hand. Sure enough, after a short while, footsteps could be heard coming from his palace. The demon emperor had chased after him. The demon emperor stopped by the weapon rack for a moment and then rushed towards the palace door where Xiao Hua stopped. Xiao Hua took a deep breath and tightly clenched the flying sword in his hand, waiting for the demon emperor to come closer and give him a fatal blow. Unfortunately, when the demon emperor arrived in front of the palace door, he actually slowed down and finally stopped. After a moment of silence, his footsteps quickly went away. Obviously, he was chasing after another palace. Who? When the footsteps disappeared, Xiao Hua let out a long sigh of relief. His palms were sweaty. In his heart, he didn't know whether to rejoice or regret. However, he didn't dare to stay for long. He hurriedly passed through the palace door and arrived at another palace. The words A27 were floating on the roof of this palace. There was nothing inside the palace, but Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the 2 palace doors on one side of the palace. These 2 palace doors were different from all the palace doors Xiao Hua had seen before. The palace doors flashed with 7-colored light, as if it was a passage. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He hurriedly rushed over, holding the flying sword in his hand, and cautiously entered the light. As the light flashed in front of him, Xiao Hua frowned. Behind the light was not a passage, but a long corridor. On the side of the corridor near the Star Moon Palace, strange patterns were engraved on the stone walls. There were also some protruding spikes, as if they were protecting the patterns on the stone walls. On the other side of the corridor were some stone pillars, which also had spikes and patterns. These patterns flashed with a faint purple light. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the light, and he was shocked to discover that there were battles between heaven and man, yin and yang mating, mountains and rivers, a great battle between immortals and demons, and so on. Xiao Hua didn't dare to look any longer and hurriedly retracted his gaze. Sometimes, he would look outside the corridor. Outside the corridor, there were streams of different colored countercurrents. These countercurrents were the same as what Xiao Hua and his 4 doppelgangers had encountered before entering the Star Moon Palace. They were filled with a power that could kill everything. These countercurrents filled the surroundings of the Star Moon Palace, firmly protecting it. Only some faint brilliance above the corridor blocked these countercurrents. These are the steps that lead to the 2nd level of the Star Moon Palace. Xiao Hua looked along the corridor again and saw a flight of steps in the distance. He didn't understand, but he understood. So the demonic emperor used these steps to ascend to the 2nd level. Xiao Hua was shocked. He suddenly thought of something and hurriedly turned around to escape to the other side of the corridor. However, at this moment, clang clang, a metallic sound and rapid footsteps came from the corridor of the 2nd level of the Star Moon Palace. Xiao Hua's heart suddenly clenched. What's wrong? Is there anyone else in the Star Moon Palace? Xiao Hua's heart clenched. A strange feeling came from his left side again. Xiao Hua hurriedly pulled his head back without hesitation. Whoosh! Amidst the rumbling sound, a jet-black brilliance brushed past his head and fell into the countercurrent outside the corridor. That powerful crossbow was inferior to a small stone thrown into a lake. It didn't even cause a ripple and immediately disappeared without a trace. At this moment, how could Xiao Hua still care if there was anyone on the 2nd level of the Star Moon Palace? With a sway of his body, he used the ethereal steps and rushed in another direction. Although Xiao Hua's body was fast, the demonic emperor in the cloak didn't show any weakness. He took out a black arrow from his cloak and placed it on the crossbow. He then followed Xiao Hua and chased after him. Xiao Hua was truly frightened. As he fled, he pondered. Looking at the countercurrent around him, his mind was blank and he didn't know how to deal with it. Seeing that there was a turn in front of him, Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He increased his speed and rushed in that direction. However, just as Xiao Hua was about to turn to the right, his body suddenly tilted strangely to the left. Boom! The sound of the crossbow rang out again. A jet-black light shot into the stone wall on the right side of the Star Moon Palace like lightning. If Xiao Hua hadn't dodged to the left, this arrow would have nailed him to the stone wall. Humph! Xiao Hua snorted coldly after dodging the black arrow. His body didn't stop as he waved his arms with extreme agility. With a sway of his body, he rushed into the corner like flowing water and disappeared in an instant. In a situation where he didn't have any transcendence energy, even if he didn't have any light body technique, Xiao Hua's agility still gave him a lot of advantages. This was also the main reason why Xiao Hua was still alive when all 4 of his doppelgangers were killed by the demonic emperor. The demonic emperor in the cloak cursed angrily. He took out a black arrow from his cloak and chased after Xiao Hua at the same time. He seemed to have practiced the major stellar fist, and his speed wasn't much worse than Xiao Hua's. However, just as the demonic emperor in the cloak chased after Xiao Hua to the corner, a sword light abruptly pierced out. The demonic emperor in the cloak was shocked. He didn't expect Xiao Hua to be so daring. He didn't run away but hid here and waited for him to catch up. However, at this moment, the demonic emperor in the cloak was caught off guard. He naturally raised his hand and wanted to block with his crossbow. Puff! Seeing that the crossbow was about to hit the small sword, Xiao Hua slightly lowered the small sword in his hand. The tip of the sword very strangely avoided the crossbow and pierced the wrist of the demonic emperor in the cloak with extreme precision. The demonic emperor in the cloak also seemed to be aware of it, but his movement was obviously not as fast as Xiao Hua's. Dang! The demonic emperor in the cloak loosened his grip, and the crossbow unexpectedly fell to the ground. Without waiting for the demonic emperor to reach out his hand to catch it, Xiao Hua kicked the crossbow away. It flew out of the corridor and fell into the countercurrent. You! The demonic emperor in the cloak was shocked. His voice was somewhat distorted through the cloak. It sounded very different from the voice of the demonic emperor in the previous battle. However, Xiao Hua didn't care about this. He held the small sword in his hand and rushed forward, stabbing the demonic emperor in the chest at lightning speed. The demonic emperor in the midst of his shock also calmed his mind. He brandished his fists and legs to fight with Xiao Hua. Oh! After a moment, Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled. He was very familiar with the demonic emperor's fists and legs. Wasn't it just the Big Dipper God fist? Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed. Aren't you too shameless? You didn't use your own demon realm's great heavenly cycle star fist and actually secretly learned this daddy's Big Dipper God fist. Although the demonic emperor in the cloak's fists and legs were similar to Xiao Hua's swordsmanship was also very powerful. In just a short moment, the demonic emperor in the cloak was stabbed several times by Xiao Hua. There was some blood oozing out from his arms and chest. Even the demonic emperor in the cloak was forced to the side of the corridor by Xiao Hua. Seeing that the demonic emperor in the cloak was also injured, Xiao Hua's heart calmed down. His swordsmanship was like a flower as he coldly asked, "Demonic Emperor, if you honestly tell this Xiao how to get out of this Star Moon Palace, this Xiao might spare your life. Kill them, kill them." The demonic emperor in the cloak muttered in a low voice, as if he was roaring, "Only by killing them all will we be able to escape. Damn it." Xiao Hua was enraged. The small sword in his hand suddenly stabbed at the demonic emperor in the chest as he shouted, "Even now, you still haven't forgotten to sow discord. Everyone in this Star Moon Palace has already been killed by you. Who else do you want to kill?" Pooh! The small sword stabbed into the demonic emperor in the chest. The demonic emperor in the cloak raised his hand and smashed Xiao Hua's wrist. Feeling the pain, Xiao Hua lifted his leg and gave a kick. Pung! The demonic emperor in the cloak was kicked out of the corridor by Xiao Hua. The demonic emperor in the cloak screamed miserably. His chest, along with the small sword, fell into the reverse current and disappeared. -13. Chapter 41:13. Damn it, I'm finally safe. Now that the enemy was gone, Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. A wave of pain came from all over his body. Although Xiaohua had the upper hand in the battle with the caped demon emperor, he was also seriously injured. Xiaohua did not care when he was nervous, but now, the pain came again. It was a feeling that he had not felt for a long time. However, just as Xiaohua relaxed for a moment, a wave of suspicion came over him again. That's not right. When I was fighting with the demon emperor, there was obviously some movement on the second level of the Star Moon Palace. Could it be that there are other people who have entered the Star Moon Palace? Could it be from the hidden immortal continent? Or Do Shanjun? Xiaohua took a deep breath and stood up. Just as he was about to go check it out, a voice came from outside the corridor again. Damn it, this is too dangerous. If not for my nimbleness, I'm afraid I would have fallen into the turbulence. Even I feel that nothing is wrong. How could something happen to you? Haha, now that we're here, it's our opportunity. There must be countless treasures in the Star Moon Palace. Hiss. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. A bone-chilling feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but run towards the end of the corridor. When he arrived at the location of a stone tablet, Xiaohua stuck his head out and saw his own silhouette. Phoenix Body Xiaohua, Dragon Vein Xiaohua, Bone Tempering Xiaohua, and Devil Spirit Xiaohua were all standing outside the doors of the Star Moon Palace, looking up at the palace. His other self was wearing a Taoist robe and had a blank expression. Dragon Bloodline Xiaohua was wearing a golden dragon robe, and the dragon horns on his head looked very ironic. Bone Tempering Xiaohua was almost naked and only wore a short shirt that covered his private parts. Phoenix Body Xiaohua was wearing colorful clothes, and there were wings between his arms. As for Demon Spirit Xiaohua, he was black and there were obvious demon patterns flashing on his face. At this moment, Phoenix Body Xiaohua's eyes were sharp and saw himself. He raised his hand and pointed. There's someone in the Bright Moon Palace? Xiaohua was shocked and quickly shrank back. He stared at the cornice of the palace in a daze, and a realization suddenly came to him. This is not the Star Moon Palace. This is the Demon Emperor's illusion. Perhaps, even if this was the Star Moon Palace, these later ones were definitely the Devil Emperor's illusions. Damn it! When did this Xiao fall into the Demon Emperor's illusion? How could he escape from this illusion? Did he escape through the palace gate? At that moment, outside the Star Moon Palace, the voices of Mo Ling, Xiaohua, and the others sounded again. It must be the Devil Emperor. Let's hurry up and catch up with him. After this little brother devours this Nephilim Emperor, this little brother will also be able to reach the realm of Nephilim Emperor. In the future, this little brother will be able to lend you a hand. Go. Io, what should we do now? What's wrong, fellow Taoist? What? You don't know? How would I know what fellow Taoist thinks? That's weird. Could it be because of this Star Moon Palace? What's so strange about it? Not good. Xiaohua suddenly came to his senses and said anxiously, if these were the illusions of the Demon Emperor, it would be fine. But if they were, damn it, why do I feel that there's something fishy about this? It's really too messy. Xiaohua thought and carefully poked his head out again. At that moment, outside the Star Moon Palace, there was no trace of Xiaohua and the others. They must have entered the Star Moon Palace. What exactly are they? Xiaohua gritted his teeth and ran to the palace gate at the side of the corridor. He rushed in, looked around, and searched for A43 in his memory. Xiaohua had just found A43 and walked to the entrance of the hall when a voice that made Xiaohua's hair stand on end rang out in his ears. That's right. Fellow Taoist, why do you look so pale? Fellow Taoists, I seem to feel a sense of familiarity. It seems like I have been here before. How is that possible? These palaces look exactly the same. How can fellow Taoists distinguish them? And how can fellow Taoists have been to the Star Moon Palace before? I don't know either. Maybe it's just a feeling? How is that possible? Xiaohua was a little dizzy. He could not help but raise his hand to scratch his head. At that moment, there was a clang sound. Xiaohua hurriedly lowered his head and realized that the jade slip that he had put in his pocket earlier had accidentally fallen to the ground because his Taoist robe had been torn. Who is it? It was the voice of the bone-honing Xiaohua. Everyone's footsteps rushed here. Xiaohua only hesitated for a moment. Looking at the bloodstains all over his body and thinking about the injuries on his body, he did not dare to meet the other Xiaohua who he did not know was real or fake. He hurriedly turned and left the A43 palace, not caring about the jade slip that had fallen to the ground. Damn it, what's going on? Xiaohua's emotions were extremely irritable. Is the Xiaohua inside an illusion or real? If he's real, who am I? Could it be that the entire Star Moon Palace is an illusion? Or maybe the Star Moon Palace is real, and we are illusions? Xiaohua's thoughts had turned several times when he saw the second Xiaohua. Now, he repeatedly thought about it, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The Star Moon Palace seemed to be huge, and the palaces inside seemed to be endless. However, Xiaohua could only wander around a few hundred palaces and could not really go deeper. Moreover, the Star Moon Palace was definitely not like what Do Shanjun and Zhu Qing had said. There were many opportunities inside. At that moment, in Xiaohua's eyes, the Star Moon Palace was a slaughterhouse. There were no opportunities to speak of. He had an impulse to escape the Star Moon Palace. However, Xiaohua also understood that if he wanted to leave the Star Moon Palace, he could only go through the palace door from before. In front of the palace door was turbulence. He could only rely on the huge rock to leave. The huge rock had disappeared after he and the second Xiaohua had entered. It was impossible for him to leave the Star Moon Palace. Xiaohua even suspected that the huge rock was an illusion. As long as he stepped on the huge rock, he would definitely fall into the turbulence. The demonic emperor would not give him this chance. How can I find the demonic emperor? How can I walk out of the Star Moon Palace? Xiaohua frowned as he shuttled through the palaces. Suddenly, the cloaked demonic emperor's words appeared in Xiaohua's mind. Kill them, kill them. Only by killing them will you be able to leave this place. Tisk. Xiaohua curled his lips and sneered. This demonic emperor, even in death, he did not forget to set a trap for me. As Xiaohua thought, he crashed into a palace like a headless fly. Just as he stepped into the palace, he immediately heard a familiar voice. This is too strange. What kind of statue is this? It looks like the bones of a celestial being. Wasn't this what Xiaohua with the phoenix body had said when he saw the statue in A71? Xiaohua raised his head and looked over. Sure enough, he saw the second Xiaohua with the phoenix body and the others surrounding the three-sided statue. The second Xiaohua was also about to raise his hand to take the spirit fruit. Not good. Xiaohua hurriedly turned his head and saw that the mirror on the stone wall was precisely his own reflection. Without thinking, he quickly retreated. Although the pain in his chest made him grimace, he did not dare to stay in this palace for a moment longer. Who? Sure enough, just as Xiaohua retreated from the A71, the second Xiaohua's berating voice had already sounded. Strange. Xiaohua somewhat realized that something was wrong. Could it be that everything that I encountered earlier hiss? Suddenly, goosebumps appeared all over Xiaohua's body. Could it be that before I came in, there was already another Xiaohua who came in? No, that's impossible. Soon after, Xiaohua denied it again. When I chased the demonic emperor to this place, I immediately saw the Star Moon Palace. There can't be another Xiaohua in front of me. What came after? Must be an illusion. Xiaohua rushed past several palaces and gradually calmed down. Seeing a 7-colored palace door in front of him, he knew that the corridor of the Star Moon Palace was outside. He breathed a sigh of relief and walked out. The corridor was as calm as before. The turbulence outside the Star Moon Palace was similarly chaotic. Streams of unknown countercurrents tangled together, producing sparks the size of a thumb. These sparks were like candlelight bursting. The power contained within immediately bombarded the turbulence, creating a huge whirlpool. Damn it, this turbulence is so powerful. I reckon that even the demonic emperor won't be able to survive after falling in. Xiaohua pinched his chin and sneered. At this moment, footsteps came from the corridor in the distance. Xiaohua was shocked and hurriedly raised his head. He saw the bone-honing Xiao Hua appear at the end of the corridor, full of vigilance. Damn it. Xiao Hua seemed to be used to vulgarities. He cursed and prepared to dodge. However, after running a few steps, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He stopped and thought to himself, the bone-honing Xiao Hua seemed to have been injured after leaving. Could it be that he was plotted against by the demonic emperor here? However, the demonic emperor has already been killed by me. He probably won't be in any trouble anymore, right? Fellow Taoist, you're quite fast? How did you get here so quickly? In such a short time, the bone-honing Xiao Hua actually saw Xiao Hua. He raised his hand and beckoned to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua smiled helplessly and raised his hand. I was afraid that you would encounter the demonic emperor alone, so I chased after you. However, fellow Taoist, you know that I get lost easily. See, I actually came out from this palace door. Fortunately, I met you, otherwise, as he spoke, the bone-honing Xiao Hua was already close. He raised his head and looked at the stairs not far away. This seems to lead to the second level of the Star Moon Palace. I wonder what it's like there. Let's not go now. Xiao Hua's gaze also fell on the stairs. He shook his head and said, the demonic emperor is in the Star Moon Palace. Let's go together, Wu. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, the bone-honing Xiao Hua's fist appeared out of nowhere and smashed toward Xiao Hua's chest. He still shouted, demonic emperor, do you think I can't recognize you? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Even if you want to transform into Xiao Hua, can't you show some professionalism? Is Xiao Hua as blood-stained and bitter as you? -13. Chapter 41:14. Xiao Hua was used to being alarmed in Star Moon Palace, so he had long been on guard. Although he did not expect Honed Bone's Xiao Hua's sneak attack, he still easily received it. He had already fought with Honed Bone's Xiao Hua once before, so he was now quite familiar with it. With a push of his palm, he blocked Honed Bone's Xiao Hua's fist. However, the huge impact still caused intense pain in Xiao Hua's chest. Xiao Hua had no choice but to dodge as he shouted, fellow Honed Bone's Xiao Hua, please listen to this poor Taoist's explanation. You are right. This poor Taoist is not Xiao Hua in A71. Furthermore, that Xiao Hua is still in A71. However, I am indeed Xiao Hua, the Xiao Hua who came in earlier. You are I's doppelganger, so don't worry, I will definitely not hurt you. What I want to say is that the bone-honing fellow Taoist who let you in earlier has been killed by the demon emperor. I don't know how he was killed, but there are two things that I can be sure of. First, the demon emperor attacked and seriously injured the bone-honing fellow Taoist near this corridor. You must be careful. Second, the demon emperor has already been killed by I, so you shouldn't be injured anymore. Haha, how can I believe the demon emperor's words? The bone-honing Xiao Hua laughed. Aren't you trying to cover it up? Are you trying to make I lower my guard? Woo. As he spoke, the bone-honing Xiao Hua's long leg kicked fiercely, smashing towards Xiao Hua's head. Xiao Hua knew that any explanation would be useless at this time, so he simply did not say anything. The bone-honing Xiao Hua's attack was full of wind. Xiao Hua raised his hands, wanting to block the attack, but there was a sharp pain in his sternum. He could only dodge and sweep his leg to the other leg of the bone-honing Xiao Hua. Boom! The bone-honing Xiao Hua's strength was not as good as Xiao Hua's, so he was immediately knocked down by Xiao Hua and fell towards the stone wall of the Star Moon Palace. Bone-honing fellow Taoist. Xiao Hua jumped up from the ground and said, I won't say much to you. Just watch. Before Xiao Hua could finish speaking, the bone-honing Xiao Hua screamed. Xiao Hua was shocked. When his gaze fell on Xiao Hua's body, his face turned pale again. Although Xiao Hua did not kill or even hurt bone-honing Xiao Hua's heart, his kick had knocked bone-honing Xiao Hua down. Bone-honing Xiao Hua had landed on the protective spikes on the stone wall of the Star Moon Palace. Several spikes had pierced bone-honing Xiao Hua's back, piercing deep into his heart and lungs. Xiao Hua was completely dumbfounded. He hurriedly rushed over and helped Xiao Hua up. He anxiously said, I didn't want to hurt you, but you forced I too much. It would have been better if Xiao Hua had not helped bone-honing Xiao Hua up. As soon as he helped him up, blood gushed out. Not only did it soak bone-honing Xiaohua's body, but even Xiaohua's own Taoist robe was stained with more blood. Boom! Unfortunately, bone-honing Xiaohua did not listen to Xiaohua's explanation. He raised his hand and struck Xiaohua's neck again. Xiaohua had no choice but to let go of bone-honing Xiaohua. Bone-honing Xiaohua glared fiercely at Xiaohua as if he wanted to eat him. Xiaohua stood in place and watched bone-honing Xiaohua stagger away. He shouted, "Fellow Taoist, I am indeed not the Devil Emperor, Sai. What's the use of explaining now?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and watched bone-honing Xiaohua disappear at the palace door. He then looked at the blood dripping in the corridor and thought to himself, all words are useless. It's better to think of a way to stop this illusion. After saying that, Xiaohua turned around and came to the front of the stairs. However, when he looked at the stairs leading to the second floor of Star Moon Palace, an indescribable sense of danger came from the second floor of Star Moon Palace. Xiaohua stood there hesitantly and did not dare to go up for a long time. After all, he was empty-handed and was seriously injured. That's right, there seems to be a sword embryo inside the palace hall of A288. Xiaohua suddenly thought of the furnace inside the palace hall from before. He took a glance at the unpredictable steps, then hastily rushed into the palace hall. Looking for A288 is not particularly difficult. When Xiaohua rushed into the hall, he was stunned again. He saw that on top of the furnace, in addition to the sword embryo, there was also a crossbow. The crossbow was flickering with a dark luster, just like the sword embryo. Next to the crossbow, there was also a small box with more than 10 small arrows inside. When did the crossbow come? Xiaohua was slightly stunned and hurriedly looked at the ground. However, he saw that on the ground, the blood stain was still there. It did not seem to have changed. Xiaohua's gaze fell on the sword embryo and the crossbow. He almost did not hesitate and took down the crossbow and the small box. After all, the power of the crossbow was still fresh in his memory. Putting the small box in his arms, he took out a small arrow and put it into the crossbow. Xiaohua held the crossbow in his left hand and walked out of the palace with his chest puffed out. However, when he passed through a few palaces, his heart was moved again. He thought to himself, if this is an illusion, then I should think about how to break the illusion. However, how should I do it? Killing these doppelgangers and even myself should be the most decisive method. However, what if I mess up what happened before? That's right. Previously, this Xiao encountered the bone-tempering Xiaohua in statue A71 and competed with him. If this Xiao were to go over now and disrupt their competition, then wouldn't this illusion be broken? Thinking of this, Xiaohua hurriedly turned back. He abandoned the plan to go to the second floor of Star Moon Palace and hurriedly rushed to A271. As expected, when Xiaohua chased down, the injured bone-honing Xiaohua had not yet entered A271. Seeing Xiaohua come over with the crossbow, although his body was already unable to balance, he was still frightened and raised his hand to guard. Xiaohua said indifferently, "Bone-honing fellow Taoist, don't worry. I will definitely not hurt you. What happened before was only a misunderstanding. Follow I in." Bone-honing Xiaohua slowly entered A271. At this time, the second Xiaohua was in a daze in front of the statue. Hearing the sound, he hurriedly turned his head. Seeing that it was the bone-honing Xiaohua, he hurriedly rushed over. However, he only took a few steps before his face turned pale with shock. He stood there, thinking that Xiaohua had already walked into the palace with the crossbow in his hand. You. The second Xiaohua looked at Xiaohua, then looked at the bone-honing Xiaohua. He was shocked at first, then he shouted, "You are the Devil Emperor. Damn Devil Emperor. You injured bone-honing fellow Taoist." Xiaohua's heart turned cold. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. The crossbow in his left hand trembled slightly, almost shooting the black arrow. However, he still endured it and said word by word, "This poor Taoist is the real Xiaohua. I want to ask you whether you are the Devil Emperor or not. However, this Xiao can't tell whether this is an illusion or not, and also can't tell who you are. However, for safety's sake, this Xiao wants to use some methods to break this illusion. Therefore, I won't hide it from you. Although I really want to kill you, I am still willing to let you go. The second Xiaohua looked at the Xiaohua that looked exactly like him. His eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. However, facing the crossbow, facing a weapon that could kill him at any time, he nodded slightly. He calmly looked at Xiaohua, then looked at the bone-honing Xiaohua and said, "Okay, although I know that I am the real Xiaohua, since fellow Taoist said so, then I will leave. However, bone-honing fellow Taoist is already injured. I ask fellow Taoist to let him rest here. This Xiao knows. You quickly leave." Xiaohua coldly swung the crossbow. He was extremely disgusted by the tone of this illusion that claimed to be Xiaohua. If it wasn't because he wanted to try it out, Xiaohua almost wanted to nail him to death here. After all, this illusion might be an incarnation of the Devil Emperor that might not have fallen. The second Xiaohua nodded towards the bone-honing Xiaohua and left from the other palace door without hesitation. Xiaohua said to the bone-honing Xiaohua, "Fellow Taoist, go rest beside the statue. After I break the illusion, we will leave together." The bone-honing Xiaohua nodded slightly. He staggered to the side of the statue and slowly sat down. However, in merely a moment, he lay on the ground again. Blood flowed from his body, and his eyes were still open. Just like the previous bone-honing Xiaohua, he was still staring at the statue on three sides. Xiaohua, who had already turned around and rushed out of the palace door, didn't notice this. He was still thinking about how to break the illusion. He held the crossbow and rushed towards the first palace door because he clearly knew that if nothing unexpected happened, the phoenix body Xiaohua and the devil spirit Xiaohua would definitely be killed by the cloaked devil emperor there. Sure enough, when Xiaohua rushed into the first palace door, the phoenix body Xiaohua and the devil spirit Xiaohua were squatting on the high platform, surrounding the already dead dragon vein Xiaohua. Before Xiaohua could get close, the devil spirit Xiaohua jumped up and kicked at Xiaohua. He said fiercely, "Motherfucker, you still dare to ask me what happened? Weren't you the one who killed fellow Taoist Longmai? Weren't we also asked to come here by you? What are you pretending for?" Unfortunately, this time, Xiaohua didn't waste his breath on him. His figure flashed slightly, and he berated, "Scram to the side. That was the incarnation of the Devil Emperor just now. It has nothing to do with I." As he spoke, Xiaohua raised his eyes and stared at the pavilion on the second floor of the Star Moon Palace, waiting for the appearance of the cloaked Devil Emperor. What did you say? The Devil Emperor can still transform in this Star Moon Palace?" The devil spirit Xiaohua was somewhat dumbfounded. At this moment, a black shadow flashed on the second floor of the pavilion. Xiaohua shook his hand without hesitation. Boom! A rumbling sound was heard, and the black arrow on the crossbow shot out. Pa! The black arrow hit the black shadow's left arm. The black shadow shook violently, and the black arrow pierced through the black shadow's body and nailed it to the stone wall. However, in merely a moment, another crossbow escaped from the second floor of the pavilion. Xiaohua was frightened out of his wits and he hastily shouted, "Fellow Taoists, quickly dodge." Boom! A huge tremor sounded, and a black light flashed by. It brushed past the face of the phoenix body Xiaohua and hit the high platform. The small arrow buzzed, and a trace of blood appeared on the face of the phoenix body Xiaohua. "Let's go." Xiaohua didn't hesitate at all. He jumped up from the ground and rushed out of the palace. The phoenix body Xiaohua and the devil spirit Xiaohua also dispelled their suspicions and hastily chased after him. Xiaohua brought the two of them around a few palaces, looked around, and berated, "Did you see that? Just now, it wasn't I who attacked, it was the Devil Emperor. Do you understand?" -13. Chapter 41:15. Devil Spirit Xiaohua was quite puzzled and asked anxiously, "Big brother, since this is Star Moon Palace, no matter if it's Taoism, Confucian cultivators, or demons, they can't transform. All of my divine abilities have disappeared without a trace. How is it possible that the Fiend Emperor can still materialize?" "Damn it," Xiaohua spat. "How would I know? If I knew about it, I would be able to transform too." Phoenix body Xiaohua stared at Xiaohua and shook his head slightly. "Although fellow Taoists saved us, I still can't believe you. Since you don't believe me, why did you come with I? Xiaohua was a bit mad. However, he raised his hand and shook a finger a few times, saying, whatever I do, I don't need you to believe, and I don't need you to believe. Follow me to A71. Bone-honing Xiaohua is already seriously injured. Let's gather together to discuss. No. Phoenix body Xiaohua shook his head. Fellow Taoist Xiaohua was born with divine bones. How could he be seriously injured? Don't lie to us. Xiaohua stomped his foot and threw the crossbow to Phoenix body Xiaohua. Damn it, I gave you this crossbow. You still don't believe I? Phoenix body Xiaohua took the crossbow and looked at Xiaohua retreating a few steps. He said with a smile that wasn't a smile, fellow Taoist, you keep saying that you want I to trust you, but you don't seem to trust one either. Forget it. Of course, Xiaohua was alert in his heart. He could only shake his head and say, just wait here. Remember, you can't trust anyone. This poor Taoist will go and bring fellow Taoist tempered bones over from A7. After saying that, Xiaohua hurriedly left. Damn it, what's going on? Looking at Xiaohua's back, after a long while, Devil Spirit Xiaohua said in a low voice, little brother's blood-dripping paradise is useless here. How can that Devil Emperor transform? Perhaps the Devil Emperor has magical powers that we don't know about. Phoenix body Xiaohua glanced sideways at Devil Spirit Xiaohua, raised the crossbow in his hand and said, now, only this thing is the foundation of our survival. Just as they were talking, the sound of footsteps could be heard from the palace door in the distance. Phoenix body Xiaohua raised his hand without hesitation. Boom! As the crossbow vibrated, a black light flashed past and nailed itself to the stone wall of Star Moon Palace. Who? Demon Spirit Xiaohua shouted loudly as he looked towards the palace door. Of course it's I. Following the voice, Xiaohua hurried over from the entrance of the palace. However, Xiaohua had already changed into a new set of clothes. This set of clothes was similar to a cloak, and a large patch of boots was seeping out from the left arm of the cloak. However, Phoenix body Xiaohua and Devil Spirit Xiaohua had never seen the cloaked Devil Emperor on the second floor of the Star Moon Palace. Thus, they were able to tell that something was amiss. Devil Spirit Xiaohua quickly asked, Big brother, why did you change your clothes? This Xiao's Taoist robe is already damaged, so I naturally have to change it. The cloaked Xiaohua bitterly smiled as he looked at his body and said, it's a pity that there aren't any Taoist robes in the Star Moon Palace. I had no choice but to randomly find one to wear. The phoenix-bodied Xiaohua still didn't relax his vigilance. The crossbow in his hand was still pointed at the cloaked Xiaohua as he asked, where is fellow Taoist Tempered Bones? Why didn't you bring him along? Sigh. Fellow Taoist Tempered Bones is already dead. The cloaked Xiaohua sighed. Devil Spirit Xiaohua exclaimed, how is that possible? Big Brother Tempered Bones is a god. What method did the Devil Emperor use to kill him? There's no such thing as a god's bone. The cloaked Xiaohua sneered. In this Star Moon Palace, you and I are merely mortals. We can die at any time. Soon after, he pointed at the bow and phoenix body Xiaohua's hand and said, if it was any other time, which one of us would place this kind of weapon in our eyes? But now, fellow Taoist pointed this weapon at I. My life is in fellow Taoist's hands. Could it be that you were the one who killed fellow Taoist Tempered Bones? Phoenix body Xiaohua asked indifferently. It seems that, out of the 5 of us, only you were together with fellow Taoist Tempered Bones. All of you follow I. The cloaked Xiaohua sighed. I will tell you how fellow Taoist Tempered Bones died, so that all of you can be at ease. Phoenix body Xiaohua looked at Devil Spirit Xiaohua. The two of them exchanged glances. Now that the matter had reached this point, there were only 3 people in Star Moon Palace. What other choice did these two have? Fellow Taoist Phoenix Body? Fellow Taoist Devil Spirit? Where are you waiting? Suddenly, another voice came from the distant palace. It was Xiaohua's voice. Why is there another big brother? Devil Spirit Xiaohua was shocked. His expression changed greatly, and he was about to answer. Shut up. The cloaked Xiaohua berated. Didn't I tell you? No one should believe that it is the Devil Emperor's transformation. As he spoke, the cloaked Xiaohua brought along the phoenix body Xiaohua and the devil spirit Xiaohua, who were filled with doubts through several halls and walked into a 28. However, Xiaohua's faint voice was still transmitted into their ears. Fellow Taoists, you two are already in a very dangerous situation. You must not trust anyone. Xiaohua quickly left the phoenix body Xiaohua and the devil spirit Xiaohua. They passed through several palaces with great familiarity and arrived at Palace Hall A31. However, not only did they not see the bone-tempering Xiaohua in the palace hall, even his corpse was nowhere to be seen. Damn it, what's going on? Xiaohua was somewhat bewildered. He lowered his head and looked at the bloodstains on the ground. Previously, I didn't pay attention to how the first tempered bones fellow Taoist disappeared. Now, even the second tempered bones fellow Taoist has disappeared. However, the bloodstains on the ground were still obvious. Xiaohua followed the bloodstains to the corridor outside Star Moon Palace. He saw the bloodstains disappear at the edge of the corridor. Needless to say, tempered bones Xiaohua's corpse was thrown into the turbulence outside Star Moon Palace. Could it be that it was done by the cloaked devil emperor who was injured by me? Xiaohua suddenly woke up. His heart jumped and he cried out in alarm. Oh no, that phoenix body fellow Taoist and devil spirit fellow Taoist are in danger. While speaking, Xiaohua hurriedly rushed back to the palace and went back the way he came. Boom! A faint sound of an arrow was heard. Xiaohua was even more anxious. He shouted loudly, Phoenix body fellow Taoist? Devil spirit fellow Taoist? Where are you waiting? Seeing that no one answered, Xiaohua was afraid that the two surviving clones would fall into the hands of the devil emperor. He shouted again, Two fellow Taoists, you are already in danger. Don't trust anyone. Unfortunately, when Xiaohua chased into the palace, there was no trace of phoenix body Xiaohua and devil spirit Xiaohua. Damn it, we still fell into the trap. Xiaohua was somewhat angry. He frowned and pondered. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. A288. That's right. Why are there bloodstains there? Who could have written this? It must be the devil emperor. While thinking, Xiaohua hurriedly rushed out of the palace and rushed towards A288. At this time, Phoenix body Xiaohua and devil spirit Xiaohua had already followed the cloaked Xiaohua into A288's palace. They saw a refining cauldron in front of them. The fire inside the cauldron was boiling. An object that looked like a sword embryo was quietly floating above the fire. Devil spirit Xiaohua stared blankly and asked curiously, Big brother, what is this? Look at the sword embryo. This is fellow Taoist tempered bones. The cloaked Xiaohua's tone carried a hint of sorrow. He reached into his bosom as if he wanted to take something out. The attention of the devil spirit Xiaohua and the phoenix Xiaohua was drawn to the sword embryo. Whoosh! At this moment, the cloaked Xiaohua suddenly took out a small sword from his hand and stabbed towards the devil spirit Xiaohua in a flash. Facing the cloaked Xiaohua, who was holding a small sword, the devil spirit Xiaohua didn't have any power to fight back. He stared dumbfoundedly at the small sword ruthlessly piercing his heart, his face filled with disbelief. Cloaked Xiaohua simply didn't look at devil spirit Xiaohua's life or death. His feet slid, following the momentum of the sword. He once again stabbed phoenix body Xiaohua's chest. Obviously, he had already calculated this beforehand. Pung! Although phoenix body Xiaohua was somewhat caught unprepared, he still waved his bow. The black arrow flew towards cloaked Xiaohua's face. Cloaked Xiaohua's face carried a sneer. He waved his small sword. With a chi sound, it precisely hit the body of the black arrow. However, even though the cloaked Xiaohua's body was greatly shaken, the black arrow was still aimed at the arm of the cloaked Xiaohua at the bow of the ship. However, after the cloaked Xiaohua retreated, he still rushed forward. The phoenix body Xiaohua helplessly brandished his bow and began to fight with the cloaked Xiaohua. Devil spirit Xiaohua was seriously injured in one blow. However, he still didn't die. His complexion was deathly pale. Just like tempered bones Xiaohua before, he staggered out of the palace door and staggered to escape to the other palaces. Behind him, phoenix body Xiaohua was no match for cloaked Xiaohua, who was holding a small sword. After more than 10 moves, Cloaked Xiao Hua's small sword pierced Phoenix body Xiao Hua's body. Blood splattered. In just a moment, Phoenix body Xiao Hua was pierced by cloaked Xiao Hua until his body was full of bloody holes. He collapsed on the ground. He couldn't be more dead. Phoenix body Xiao Hua's eyes also didn't close. He had the same appearance as tempered bones Xiao Hua. Fellow devil spirit? Hearing the sound of a bow and arrow coming from a 28, Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed and hurriedly quickened his pace. However, before he could approach, devil spirit Xiao Hua's staggered figure flashed past one side of the palace. Xiao Hua hurriedly turned and ran towards the palace door. However, although there were bloodstains on the ground in front of Xiao Hua, devil spirit Xiao Hua's figure was still nowhere to be seen. Even when Xiao Hua chased to the stairs leading to the second floor of Star Moon Palace, he still didn't see devil spirit Xiao Hua. Looking at the bloodstains on the stairs, Xiao Hua was somewhat hesitant. After experiencing so many life and death situations, he still hadn't reached the second floor of Star Moon Palace. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and stepped onto the stairs. Contrary to Xiao Hua's expectations, the second floor of Star Moon Palace was silent. Looking at the style, it was similar to the first floor. There were corridors and some spikes and textures. Between the spikes, there were also some palace doors with colorful clouds floating in the air. Outside the corridors, there was even a raging turbulence. Xiao Hua lowered his head to take a look. The bloodstains extended towards a corner of Star Moon Palace. He thought for a moment and carefully walked over. After confirming that devil spirit Xiao Hua wasn't hiding at the corner, he turned around. Looking at the corner, there was a palace that was similarly covered by colorful clouds. The bloodstains led to the palace door. Fellow devil spirit, Xiao Hua whispered, I have come. I definitely won't hurt you. Big brother. Don't kill me. Devil spirit Xiao Hua's weak voice sounded from within the palace. Xiao Hua sighed and said, Don't worry. After all, you are I's clone. Now, -13.